Chapter 279. The sword in Mu Qingshua's hand was firmly grasped, and he was unable to dodge this strike. His body turned into gentle moonlight as he was struck by the saber, disappearing into the air. The strange space disappeared, and the strong wind dissipated. Mu Qingxue landed on the ground with a pale complexion. The small world he created using his holy weapon had been destroyed by Xiao Chun, and he had suffered quite a bit of backlash. After suffering a loss at the hands of Xiao Chun in front of so many people, Mu Qingshue's face was very gloomy. Die. 9 flashes sword. Mu Qingxue roared angrily, and the strong wind and lightning appeared again. The holy weapon Moonlight Beauty reappeared in his hand. Using the force of the strong wind, he quickly appeared in front of Xiao Chun. Layers of golden light appeared on the blade of the sword, changing continuously. Xiao Chun was surrounded by sword images. There was clearly only one strike, but it came from 9 different directions. It made it hard to tell if it was the real body or an illusion, or if it was all the real body. Xiao Chun shouted, "Lone Peak Fatal Blow." An illusion of a mountain rose from the ground. In the past, the illusion of a mountain would descend from the sky. However, in order to deal with the current situation, Xiao Chun used this move in reverse. Roaming Dragon's 9 transformations. The instant the Lone Peak Fatal Blow was executed, Xiao Chun quickly circulated his essence and executed the Roaming Dragon's 9 transformations in an extremely short period of time. In an instant, the illusion of 9 mountains appeared in the sky. The mountains overlapped, and it was impossible to tell which was the real one. Dang, dang, dang. 9 metallic clangs rang out at the same time. In the next moment, the figures of the mountains and Mu Qingxue merged together. The two of them shouted loudly, and their auras were incomparably ferocious as they exchanged another move. 2 bolts of lightning streaked across the sky at the same time, illuminating the gloomy sky like the sun. After a while, there were 2 roars of thunder, and the two of them retreated 9 steps. Kaxie. Mu Qingxue sheathed his sword, and the beauty of the Moonlight Beauty immediately disappeared. He said indifferently, "You may leave." Xiao Chen's expression remained incomparably calm. There were no fluctuations at all. He sheathed the lunar shadow saber and slowly walked forward. The two of them were equally matched. If they didn't bring out their true abilities, they wouldn't be able to determine the victor even after exchanging 100 blows. It was obvious that the two of them would not use their trump cards in public. Doing so would only expose some of their trump cards. Who exactly is this person? He actually managed to fight Mu Qingxue to a draw. Since when did such a young expert appear in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion? I remember now. 3 days ago, he was also the one who injured the second son of the Shi family. Even the 4th elder of the Shi family couldn't do anything to him. So it's him. He's really daring with so many people. Mu Qingxue and the Shi clan are not to be trifled with. He just used the Qingyun secret technique. He must be from Qingyun Peak. He must be a disciple of Qingyun Peak. However, I heard that Qingfeng has been in decline for many years. However, this person is really low profile. He did not even leave behind a name. He managed to fight to a draw with Mu Qingxue. At the very least, he will be famous in the Shiha province. When the surrounding cultivators saw that Xiao Chun was not at a disadvantage against Mu Qingxue, they were all astonished. A Night Spirit Palace disciple walked over to Mu Qingshue's side. He asked in confusion, "First senior brother, why did you let him go?" In the boundless void in the depths of Mu Qingshue's right eye, the copper mirror shone with a faint light. It was as though it could see through everything in the world. Xiao Chen's true appearance was imprinted on the copper mirror. Mu Qingxue memorized this appearance in his heart. A murderous intent appeared in his eyes as he smiled faintly. The higher a person flies, the more painful the fall will be. Let him fly for a while longer. In the Yin residence of Shiha City, after Xiao Chun ended his fight with Mu Qingxue, he immediately rushed to the Yin residence to look for Lu Suifeng. Xiao Chun said, "Suifeng, you should go back alone this time. Go through the Devil Savannah with the Yin residence's merchant group. There should not be any danger." Lu Suifeng felt it was strange, so he asked, "Why? Is there something else?" Xiao Chun looked up at the boundless sky. During his fight with Mu Qingxue earlier, he felt that indistinct killing intent again. This proved that the mysterious cultivator, who followed the two of them through the devil's savannah, was still very patient. Xiao Chun withdrew his gaze and nodded. That person's target is me. There should be no problem for you to go alone. I have decided to stay with the Yun clan for a while longer. Lu Suifeng thought for a while and said, in that case, be careful. When necessary, don't go all out. Xiao Chun smiled faintly and said, I do not fear this person at all. I just want to cultivate for a while longer and capture him completely. I just want to know who the person behind him is. Lu Suifeng did not say anything more. After he communicated with the Yun clan, he left Shihe City with the Yun clan's merchant group in the afternoon. As for Xiao Chun, he asked for a quiet courtyard from the Yun clan. This was something that Yun Yuji could not ask for more. Along the way, Yun Yuji had heard about the fight between Xiao Chun and Mu Qingxue. Being able to fight Mu Qingxue to a draw made him value Xiao Chun's potential even more. Late at night, the full moon hung quietly in the sky like a plate. In the bedroom, Xiao Chun sat cross-legged on the bed. He took out 2 quintessence-gathering pills and poured them out. When a cultivator below Martial Monarch consumed the quintessence-gathering pill, their chances of breaking through would increase by at least 20%. The lower their cultivation, the higher the chances. Right now, Xiao Chun was only an inferior-grade martial saint. 1 quintessence-gathering pill could increase his chances of breaking through by 40%. 2 would be 80%. In addition to his own accumulations, breaking through to medial-grade martial saint should not be a problem. Xiao Chun placed the 2 quintessence-gathering pills in his mouth. The pills melted in his mouth and turned into a refreshing liquid. It flowed down his throat and into his blood vessels, merging with his blood. Xiao Chun slowly circulated the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation to speed up the absorption of the quintessence. After the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation completed a small cycle, he completely absorbed the medicinal energy of the 2 quintessence-gathering pills. Bang! In the Qi whirlpool in his dantian, Xiao Chun felt a strong energy gush out. The crystalline purple Qi whirlpool started spinning frantically. Is this the strength of the quintessence-gathering pill? Xiao Chun thought to himself, how horrifying. This is almost as much energy as I can absorb in a month. Although the strong energy was very berserk, it was maintained at a certain level. It continuously tested the limits of what Xiao Chun could endure. This way, it ensured that Xiao Chun could break through safely. It was like a bottle containing water. Xiao Chun's body was the bottle, and the essence in his body was the water in the bottle. If Xiao Chun wanted to break through, he had to increase the volume and quality of the water, making the bottle bigger. This was a very dangerous process. However, the quintessence-gathering pill gave Xiao Chun's energy a formless and gentle barrier. It could ensure that the bottle would not be forcefully broken by Xiao Chun. With the protection of the quintessence-gathering pill, Xiao Chun circulated the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation without any worries. The pure lightning-attributed essence of heaven and earth flowed into Xiao Chun's body like water. The room was filled with a purple light. Xiao Chun's heart was as calm as water, like an ancient well. 1 great cycle passed, 2 great cycles passed. In the end, the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation circulated a total of 72 great cycles. Bang! A crisp sound came from Xiao Chun's body. The original bottle suddenly shattered. After a while, it formed a new bottle. The quantity and quality of the essence in the bottle had increased by 20%. Xiao Chun opened his eyes and 2 purple lights flashed. He looked at the remnant purple energy in the room and said excitedly, I did it. It was worth spending so many spirit stones to buy the quintessence-gathering pill. It is really effective. Uchi. Xiao Chun waved his hand and the remnant lightning-attributed energy in the room immediately formed a purple whirlpool. With a schwa sound, it all flew into Xiao Chun's right hand. Xiao Chun's right hand immediately turned crystal clear, giving off the color of glass. With a thought, a strand of purple flame appeared on Xiao Chun's index finger, spinning continuously. So, Xiao Chun flicked his finger gently, and the purple flame crashed into the wooden table in the room. The wooden table did not give off any sound and immediately turned into a pile of dust. Xiao Chun got up and muttered, now that I am a medial-grade martial saint, even a regular inferior-grade martial saint would not dare to receive a casual strike from the Purple Thunder True Fire. This can be considered one of my trump cards. I should go out and test out the magic treasures that I obtained from the auction first. Later, when my essence is completely stable, I can use the medial grade spirit stones. When Xiaochen pushed open the door, sunlight immediately shone in. He squinted his eyes and said softly, "It is actually noon already." Indeed, there is no concept of time when cultivating. Xiaochen shook his head and went out to wash up. Then he entered the courtyard feeling refreshed. He took out the windwalk shoes from the universe ring and put them on. The instant Xiaochen put on the windwalk shoes, he immediately felt a strange energy flow through the meridians in his feet, and quickly connected with his mind. With a thought, he could use the windwalk shoes immediately. Looking at the windwalk shoes, Xiaochen smiled gently. I did not expect a complete secret treasure to be so convenient to use. The formation markings in it are definitely not damaged at all. Let's not think about this for now. Let's test out the speed of the windwalk shoes first. Let's see how fast it is. Xiaochen looked around the courtyard and quickly circulated the essence in his body for the blue dragon cloud soaring art. In the next instant, he turned into a beam of purple light and ran quickly around the courtyard. Pussy-eye. Pussy-eye. Xiaochen raised his speed to the limits of his body. At this moment, his speed was infinitely close to the speed of sound. His body gave off an ear-piercing sound of friction with the air. The air was like a calm surface of water. With the sound of the explosion, the surface of the water rippled continuously, forming a horrifying shockwave. Immediately, a strong wind blew in the courtyard. The sand billowed and the small trees fell to the side. It looked like they would be uprooted at any moment. Xiaochen thought to himself, the blue dragon cloud soaring art is the exclusive movement technique of the blue dragon martial spirit. It is at least medial grade heaven ranked. I cultivated it to small perfection long ago. Unfortunately, I could not break through the bottleneck after that. As a result, my speed has been stuck in the middle, unable to reach the speed of sound. Let's see if the speed of the windwalk shoes can help me make a breakthrough. With a thought, the formation markings in the windwalk shoes immediately activated. In the next moment, Xiaochen felt his body lighten. The ear-piercing sound of the explosion disappeared, and the strong wind in the courtyard subsided. Chapter 280. Everywhere Xiaochen passed, he left behind afterimages. After a long time, the afterimages slowly disappeared. I really reached the speed of sound. Xiaochen stopped walking and revealed a joyful smile. After reaching the speed of sound, his body had already started to merge with the air. The friction created would naturally disappear into the wind, and there would not be any intense sonic booms. Xiaochen withdrew his smile and said, most cultivators can only reach the speed of sound after they advance to Martial King. These windwalk shoes allow me to reach the speed of sound when I am a medial grade martial saint. The 200,000 spirit stones were not spent in vain. If Morong Chang's state of wind did not improve further, then my speed would have already surpassed his. At the very least, I would not be at a disadvantage against him in terms of speed. Without wasting any time, Xiaochen continued to test how long his essence could last if he used the windwalk shoes at full power. After 2 hours, Xiaochen looked at the remaining half of his essence. He said, it looks like there should be no problem using it for 4 hours. However, when I fight, I will exhaust more essence. I will only be able to use it for about 3 hours. However, that is already pretty good. Xiaochen took out 2 inferior grade spirit stones, and held one in each hand. Then he sat cross-legged on the ground and started to recover his essence. After 1 hour, the spirit stones lost their luster, and Xiaochen's essence was replenished. Only then did he slowly stand up. When Xiaochen looked at the courtyard gates, he was surprised to discover that Yin Kursen had arrived at some point in time. He quickly got up and went over. Senior Sister Yin, are you looking for me? A strange look flashed in Yin Kursen's calm eyes. She said, Yichen, you broke through again? Xiaochen nodded and smiled. And this is all thanks to the quintessence gathering pill. It probably saved me 2 months of time. Even without the quintessence gathering pill, with Xiaochen's talent and the cultivation speed of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation, Xiaochen would not be stuck at peak inferior grade martial saint for long. However, being able to save 2 months was also a great help to Xiaochen. What he lacked the most now was time. Yin Kursen's expression turned calm once more. She revealed a smile on her delicate face and said, "Congratulations, I was just passing by to see you. Since you are cultivating, I will not disturb you anymore. Goodbye." "Wait a moment." Xiaochen stopped Yin Kursen. Yin Kursen turned around and found it strange. She asked, "Is something the matter?" Xiaochen nodded. "Good. I want you to help me test the defensive strength of my artifact. Use your strongest move to attack me." That jade pendant was not like the windwalk boots. It was a defensive secret treasure. Xiaochen would definitely not be able to test it himself, so he would have to find someone to help him. Yin Kursen teased, "So you are looking for me to do hard labor? I was wondering what it was." "You are looking for me to do hard labor for free?" Xiaochen could not help but laugh hoarsely. He discovered that after he got to know Yin Kursen, she was not as indifferent as she appeared. She had a cute and mischievous side to her. However, this Yin Kursen was more genuine. Xiaochen was easier to get along with. He said, "How about one quintessence gathering pill?" Yin Kursen burst out laughing. Her delicate face looked like an orchid. She said, "I was just teasing you. Prepare yourself. I heard that it can block the strike of a peak medial grade martial king. I can only do my best." Xiaochen took out the jade pendant and placed it on his chest. He immediately felt a cooling sensation. Like the windwalk boots, the formation markings in it instantly connected to Xiaochen's mind. It was very convenient to operate. After he got used to it, Xiaochen had a cautious expression as he said, "Come on, I'm ready." Yin Kursen had a calm expression. Soon, she entered a state of mind as calm as still water. She slowly drew the heaven-ranked roaming dragon saber. The dazzling saber gave off a bright light under the sunlight. Her aura started to gather quickly. Her calm gaze became as sharp as a saber light. The saber in her hand started to tremble slowly. The sound of the saber trembling grew louder and louder. It reverberated endlessly in the surroundings. Formless ripples spread out in the air, creating a strong wind. Boom! The unending sound suddenly merged together and turned into a loud sound rushing to the 9 heavens. The sound dispersed a large patch of clouds in the sky. Without the clouds blocking the sunlight, it was so dazzling that it made one's eyes hurt. Yin Kursen's aura finally reached its peak. It turned into a sharp saber and shot at Xiaochen. Her figure followed this aura in the air and headed for Xiaochen. She actually did not show any mercy. Xiaochen thought to himself as he watched Yin Kursen unleash her peak attack. With a thought, a transparent barrier enveloped Xiaochen. Bang! When the heaven-ranked spirit weapon struck the barrier, it gave off a loud sound. The surface of the barrier rippled like water. Xiaochen, who was within the barrier, felt a huge force. He took 2 steps back, but he did not suffer any injuries. On the contrary, Yin Kursen was knocked back by the rebound force. Her complexion was very pale, without any color of blood. Xiaochen quickly retracted the barrier and walked over quickly. He asked worriedly, "Are you all right? It is just a test, there is no need to go all out." Yin Kursen did not answer Xiaochen's question immediately. She was stabilizing the chaotic essence and surging qi and blood in her body. After a while, Yin Kursen's complexion slowly recovered. She revealed a smile on her delicate face and said, "It's fine. Since it is a test, I have to do my best. That way, you won't have to worry too much when you fight with others in the future." Yin Kursen paused for a while before she said, "I have a heaven-ranked spirit weapon. When I execute the Heavenly Melody Saber technique, my full power strike is equal to an inferior grade martial king. This barrier did not show any signs of shattering under my full power strike. It should be able to block the full power strike of a medial grade martial king." A heaven-ranked spirit weapon could raise Yin Kursen's attack power by 50%. Furthermore, she had a saber technique that could raise her attack power. Yin Kursen's attack power was indeed equal to an inferior grade martial king's. Xiaochen took out a quintessence gathering pill and tossed it to Yin Kursen. "Many thanks." Yin Kursen stretched out her hand and caught the quintessence gathering pill. She smiled faintly and said, "I only found out today that my full power strike is so valuable. It can be exchanged for a quintessence gathering pill worth close to 30,000 inferior-grade spirit stones. It looks like when I have time, I have to come here more often. In a few days, I will be rich. Xiaochen blushed with shame in his heart. He smiled gently and said, "In that case, I would become a pauper." The two of them smiled at each other and chatted for a while. Finally, because someone from the Yun clan came to summon Yun Kursen, they ended their conversation. After Yun Kursen left, Xiaochen tried to use the jade pendant on his chest. However, there was no reaction. He could not make contact with it. It looked like it was as Linlang Pavilion said, it could only be used once a day. After resting for a while, Xiaochen took out some dry rations from the universe ring to eat. After a while he took out the lightning-attributed high-ranked martial technique, Wuxia saber technique. The Wuxia saber technique had a total of 9 moves. It was a typical lightning-attributed martial technique. Its original form was an incomplete heaven-ranked martial technique from the ancient era. Later, it was patched up, and its might was much weaker than the original. Many of the martial techniques in the Sky Martial Continent were actually derived from the ancient martial techniques. Only a small portion were created by the later generations. Patching up an ancient martial technique and adding in one's own insights and viewpoints was also a type of martial technique. However, it was much rarer than the previous 2 types. The reason was none other than the incomplete martial technique. It was because the martial technique that was patched up would definitely be incomplete. Comprehending an incomplete ancient martial technique was much more difficult than deriving or creating one's own insights. Furthermore, adding in one's own viewpoint and merging it with the viewpoints of an old friend was even more difficult. These 2 reasons caused this type of martial technique to be very rare. Under the blazing sun, Xiaochen carefully looked at the Wuxia saber technique. With just one glance, he was deeply immersed in it. He only managed to finish reading it when it was dusk. Closing the book, Xiaochen felt many emotions in his heart. He muttered, "The person who edited this book is truly a genius." Not only did he completely comprehend the thoughts of the ancients, he even corrected a few mistakes. He merged his own comprehension with the wisdom of the ancients, forming a new fusion. If this person had not obtained an incomplete copy, the might of this new Wuxia saber technique would not be any weaker than the ancients. The instant he closed the book, Xiaochen's gaze inadvertently landed on a line of blurry words on the last page of the book. That line of words was written in the ancient era, which was the traditional Chinese characters of Earth. Because the words were blurry and it was traditional Chinese characters, most people would not notice it. Xiaochen read it out softly. The original work was not detailed. Sangmu revised it in the year 689 of the Great Qin era. If there are any inadequacies, please correct me. Thunder King Sangmu. After reading to the end, Xiaochen was completely stunned. The person who edited this secret manual was actually the Thunder King Sangmu. If he remembered correctly, the Thunder King was only 20 years old in the year 689 of the Great Qin era. He already had such a horrifying talent at the age of 20, accomplishing something that others could not do in 100 years. What kind of person was the Thunder King of 1,000 years ago? Xiaochen's thoughts wandered. He thought about the time he met this person. Back then, when the Thunder King taught him the Battle Sage Origins changing character formula, he only said one sentence. 1 move to break 10,000 techniques, 1 chi to shake the world. Unfortunately, Xiaochen's talent was insufficient. Even now he was still confused about this sentence. He did not understand it at all. As a result, when he used the Battle Sage Origins to imitate a martial technique, there were too many flaws. Thinking about the Thunder King, Xiaochen remembered that promise again. Don't let her cry. Xiaochen's gaze fell on the lunar shadow saber. He nodded his head solemnly in his heart. Recollecting his thoughts, Xiaochen placed the Wuxia saber technique into the universe ring and prepared to practice the Wuxia saber technique. The Wuxia saber technique had a total of 9 moves. The first 3 moves were the foundational saber techniques, the foundation of the Wuxia saber technique. If he wanted to practice the last 6 moves, he had to completely comprehend the first few foundational saber techniques. The 4th to 6th moves were the sure kill moves. After executing them, every move could force the opponent into a desperate situation. The 7th to 9th moves were the sure kill moves. As the name implied, sure kill meant that the moment the move was executed, it could kill the opponent for sure. Of course, this was just a saying. The so-called sure kill did not mean that the opponent would definitely die when the move was executed. It was just a concept. Xiaochen placed his right hand on the saber hilt and closed his eyes. His mind was at peace as he entered into a state of meditation. After an unknown amount of time, night fell quietly. There was no moonlight tonight. The courtyard was pitch black. One could not even see their fingers if they stretched out their hands. The courtyard was completely silent. Chapter 281. Glittering Wuxia. Suddenly, Xiaochen opened his eyes and waved his right hand. The snow-white lunar shadow saber flashed with a dazzling light in the dark night. Xiaochen executed the first move of the Wuxia saber technique. A purple branch of the ancient divine Wuxia tree appeared from nowhere. It turned into saber chi and headed for a small tree in the courtyard. It was as fast as lightning. The 5-meter-tall tree was immediately chopped into pieces, which danced in the air in the small courtyard. Wuxia transforms to chi. Xiaochen executed the second move of the Wuxia saber technique. Instantly, the entire figure of the divine Wuxia tree appeared. It turned into dozens of sharp purple saber chi, and turned the tree fragments in the air into dust. Chi breaks Wuxia. Xiaochen shouted and executed the third move of the Wuxia saber technique. Instantly, the purple saber chi in the air gathered together and formed an extremely sharp saber chi. Under Xiaochen's command, the sharp saber chi entered the ground with a schwa sound. A hole as thick as an index finger immediately appeared in the ground. This strand of saber chi was incredibly dense. There were no cracks on the sides of the hole. It was smooth and glossy. It was not inferior to the saber chi of a regular peak superior grade martial saint. Kassier. Xiaochen withdrew his saber and stood upright. When he saw the scene in the courtyard, he revealed a faint smile. The foundational moves of the Wuxia saber technique were much stronger than the first 10 moves of the Lingyun saber technique. Of course, this did not mean that the Lingyun saber technique was inferior to the Wuxia saber technique. The Lingyun saber technique was also a peak earth-ranked saber technique. If there was a person who could perfectly merge the state of mountains and clouds, it would be comparable to the Wuxia saber technique. It could only be said that the Wuxia saber technique was more suitable for Xiaochen. In his hands, it was much stronger than the Lingyun saber technique. Because he was in the Yun clan, he did not dare to cause too much of a commotion. When Xiaochen demonstrated these 3 moves, he did not use the state of thunder. He only used 10% of his essence. It was easy to imagine how powerful these 3 moves would be if they were infused with the small perfection state of thunder, and unleashed all of their essence. Xiaochen once again comprehended the concepts of these 3 moves. After a while, he continued to practice these 3 moves. If he did not practice these 3 moves to the great accomplishment stage, Xiaochen did not intend to practice the remaining 6 moves. The foundation was the foundation, and it had to be firmly laid. At midnight, Xiaochen stopped practicing his saber and entered his bedroom. He took out a medial grade spirit stone from his universe ring, and prepared to use it to cultivate. Xiaochen sat cross-legged on the bed, and held the spirit stone in his right hand. He closed his eyes and slowly circulated the purple thunder divine incantation. Boom! The purple thunder divine incantation did not give Xiaochen much time to prepare. The instant he circulated the purple thunder divine incantation, the vast essence in the medial grade spirit stone surged into his meridians like a river. The terrifying Yuan Qi immediately filled up Xiaochen's meridians and rampaged through them. Like a wild horse. Xiaochen frowned. He felt some pain. He calmed himself down and did his best to control this surging spiritual energy. After a long time, after much effort, Xiaochen finally managed to tame this wild horse, slowly making it docile. After a while, he successfully circulated the spirit stone in a minor cycle and poured it into the purple chi whirlpool. Dida, dida. The purple chi whirlpool spun rapidly. Drops of crystalline essence liquid fell quickly and immediately replenished a quarter of Xiaochen's essence. Xiaochen guarded his mind and continued to circulate the purple thunder divine incantation. The spiritual energy in the medial grade spirit stone flowed in continuously. He circulated it for 5 major cycles before he completely absorbed all the spiritual energy. The purple chi whirlpool was larger than before. Its color was also deeper. The purple thunder divine incantation circulated another cycle. Xiaochen finally had complete control over the spirit stone in the medial grade spirit stone. After he stopped cultivating, Xiaochen opened his eyes and tossed away the medial grade spirit stone that had lost its luster. He said indifferently, "1 medial grade spirit stone is equivalent to half a month of my bitter cultivation. No wonder medial grade spirit stones are so expensive." During the days in the Yun residence, Xiaochen practiced his saber techniques during the day, and used the medial grade spirit stone to raise his cultivation at night. Yun Kursen would come by almost every day. Aside from chatting, she would also exchange pointers with Xiaochen. This was exactly what Xiaochen wished for. Coincidentally, he needed someone to exchange moves with the Wuxia saber technique that he practiced. After exchanging pointers, the two of them would comment on each other's martial techniques. What surprised Xiaochen was that Yun Kursen's attainments in the saber technique were exceptionally deep. Her unique understanding of the Wuxia saber technique was very helpful to Xiaochen. As the two of them discussed it together, Xiaochen's progress in the Wuxia saber technique was very fast. In 7 days, Xiaochen practiced the first 3 moves to great perfection. Although there was still a long way to go before he reached consummation, he could feel at ease practicing the remaining 4 to 6 killing moves. Just like this, another half a month passed. Xiaochen practiced the 3 killing moves to the peak of small perfection. Its might was much stronger than Xiaochen had imagined. If he combined it with the state of thunder, it would be comparable to the Lingyun saber techniques, everlasting startling cloud, and twisting road around peak. As for the remaining 3 killing moves, their might would be incomparable. After more than 20 days, Xiaochen had exhausted a total of 30 medial grade spirit stones. The amount of essence his body could store increased every day. In less than a month, Xiaochen's cultivation had already stabilized at the peak of early medial grade martial saint. On this particular day, Xiaochen finished practicing the Wuxia saber technique. He looked at the blazing sun above him, and wiped the sweat off his forehead. He said indifferently, "It is time to leave. I hope that person has not left yet. Otherwise, all my efforts would have been wasted." Outside the courtyard, Yun Kursen held a flask of wine and 2 wine cups in her hands. She slowly walked in and sat at the stone table. She filled up the wine cups and smiled faintly. "Here's to you." Xiaochen smiled faintly and sat down. He picked up the wine cup and drained it in one go. He said, "Strange, how did you know I was leaving today?" Yun Kursen filled up Xiaochen's cup again and said, "I said it long ago, my judgment of people is very accurate. When I saw your expression yesterday, there was something wrong." Xiaochen drank another cup and said, "That's right. When are you preparing to return to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion?" When Yun Kursen heard this, an undetectable desolation flashed in her calm eyes. She took a sip of wine and said, "I will probably not go there often in the future. I am now the successor of the Yun clan. My focus will be on the Yun clan." Xiaochen noticed the desolation in Yun Kursen's tone. He thought of something and asked, "That's right, there is something I have always wanted to ask you. Why is a girl like you so interested in saber techniques? Furthermore, your attainments in saber techniques are so deep." Xiaochen's question was rather abrupt. However, it was the truth. In the Tianmu continent, when a girl practiced martial arts, their first choice of weapon was the sword. This was easy to understand. The elegance and carefreeness of the sword suited a girl's temperament. That was why there were not as many female disciples in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion as there were in the Misty Sword sect. Furthermore, even if some girls learned the saber, they would not spend too much time researching the deeper meaning of saber techniques. Very few girls were like Yun Kursen, completely immersing themselves in saber techniques. Even Xiaochen felt ashamed of his own inferiority to Yun Kursen's understanding of saber techniques. Thus, Xiaochen found this question very strange. When she heard this question, Yun Kursen revealed a youthful smile on her delicate face. She said, "My personality dictates it. I have liked the saber since I was young. Later on, I heard some stories about bladesmen. So, I decided to become one. After that, I arrived at the holy land of bladesmen. Unfortunately, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is no longer the Heavenly Saber Pavilion of the past. I did not see a true bladesman. A true bladesman? Xiao Chen felt it was strange. Could it be that there was a difference between a real and a fake bladesman? Yun Kursen explained. The bladesman I am talking about is the bladesman of the ancient era. In this world, the sword came before the saber. Do you know why? Without waiting for Xiao Chen to reply, Yun Kursen continued. Because the sword is a ceremonial weapon. It represents benevolence, righteousness, and the air of a gentleman. Thus, it is the ancestor of all weapons. Only a person with great boldness can be called a swordsman. However, there are very few people in this world who are able to do that. Most of them are people who try to be cultured and use the name of a swordsman to act like a hypocrite. Later on, there were some people who knew that they could not be a true gentleman. However, they did not want to be hypocritical. Thus, they created the saber. The saber was different from the sword. The saber was a true lethal weapon. It was a lethal weapon that existed to kill. It was not restricted by any rules and regulations. It was for the sake of being able to express one's true self. After Xiao Chen heard Yun Kursen's introduction, he entered deep thought. He felt that he had found some answers to some of the questions that had troubled him for a long time. He could not help but become more interested in this topic. He asked, since that is the case, if the saber is a lethal weapon, then the 5,000-odd Heavenly Saber Pavilion disciples should all be bladesmen, right? Yun Kursen shook her head. Wrong. Lethal weapon is just the surface meaning of the saber. It does not mean that you are a bladesman just because you use the saber to kill people. Instead, you have to have a boldness in your heart, not fearing power, not bowing and scraping. This is a sharpness that can be withdrawn. However, this boldness cannot disappear. Otherwise, you will not be able to express your true self. You will just be a murderous demon, even more abominable than those hypocrites. Yun Kursen paused for a while and poured herself a cup of wine. She looked at Xiao Chen and smiled faintly. Actually, I envy you. When I first saw you, I noticed that you were different from the other Heavenly Saber Pavilion disciples. In the end, I was right. Even until now, the boldness in your heart has not weakened at all. Instead, it has become sharper and more stable. One day, this boldness will turn into a treasured saber and become your saber soul. At that time, you will be a true bladesman. Xiao Chen's expression turned serious. He felt like he had met someone who understood him. This was the first time he met someone who could understand him so well. He placed the wine cup on the stone table and smiled gently. In your opinion, how many people in the history of the great Qin nation can be considered a true bladesman? Yun Kursen muttered to herself for a while before smiling. You speak too highly of me. What I said is only my understanding. As for whether it is right or wrong, I do not know. However, the ones that I truly admire are the first pavilion master of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, the Thunder King from 1,000 years ago, and the current commander of the Imperial Dragon Legion, Nangong Yan. The two of them chatted as they drank. In the end, the more they chatted, the more interested they became. They actually drank for the entire afternoon. The two of them were slightly tipsy. Chapter 282. Xiao Chen raised his head and looked at the sky. The sun was setting in the west, and the sky was red. It was already dusk. He stood up and smiled bitterly. I can't chat anymore, I have to go. If there is an opportunity in the future, let's drink to our heart's content. The sky was as red as fire. Because she had drunk too much. Yun Kursen's delicate face also had a tinge of red. It complemented the setting sun, making her look even more beautiful than the setting sun. Yun Kursen stood up and performed a cupped fist salute. Take care, we will meet again in the future. Xiao Chen nodded his head. Then he turned around and left his courtyard, heading towards the main gate of the Yun residence. The setting sun was like blood, dyeing his back a bright red, leaving a long shadow on the ground. Yun Kursen sent off Xiao Chen with her eyes. She only withdrew her gaze after he disappeared from her vision for a long time. After Xiao Chen left the Yin residence, he immediately headed out of the city. He was prepared to rush to the port of the Black Dragon River before the sky turned dark. Along the way, Xiao Chen executed the Blue Dragon Cloud soaring art. His body moved like a flood dragon on the road. His speed was much faster than the dragon blood horse. When the sun completely set, Xiao Chen finally arrived at the port. The port was brightly lit. It was filled with large cargo ships waiting to set sail. Xiao Chen looked around and casually found a merchant ship. After he stated his purpose and paid, he successfully boarded the ship. The deck was filled with cultivators preparing to cross the river. Xiao Chen found an empty spot and sat down cross-legged. Soon, he entered a state of cultivation and slowly circulated the dragon and tiger body sculpting art. The night passed by silently. When the sky brightened the next day, the merchant ship had already quietly set sail, traveling on the vast and boundless Black Dragon River. Did you hear? The Shiha twin fiends were killed by someone. Their bodies were chopped in half, and they died without a complete corpse. That's impossible. The Shiha twin fiends were inferior grade martial kings. They had roamed the Shiha province for so many years, and had been surrounded several times. However, they always managed to escape unscathed. How could they be killed without a complete corpse? I heard about this as well. Someone personally saw their corpses lying on the Devil Savannah. Eventually, they were eaten by wolves. However, I do not know who did it. I know who did it. At that time, I saw it with my own eyes. These two people failed miserably. They blocked the Misty Sword Sect's Chu Chaoyan, wanting him to hand over the superior grade spirit stones from the auction. In the end, Chu Chaoyan single-handedly killed them and took away all their belongings. Early in the morning, the deck slowly became lively. A group of cultivators talked about the recent hot topics. When Xiao Chen heard that it was related to Chu Chaoyan, he could not help but listen carefully. Isn't Chu Chaoyan only a peak superior grade martial saint? How could he fight against two inferior grade martial kings at the same time? Even if he won, it would be very difficult. The first person sneered and said, "Hard work? Don't joke around. It was a one-sided slaughter." Especially after Chu Chaoyan used his saint weapon, the two of them didn't even have the chance to run before they were cut in half. That's impossible. I saw it with my own eyes. It is definitely true. At that time, there was a group of bandits on the Devil Savannah. They were the helpers of the Shiha twin bandit kings. However, when they saw the situation, they fled in fright. Everyone on the deck took a deep breath. They had not expected Chu Chaoyan to be so strong. Killing inferior grade martial kings was as easy as killing dogs. The rising sun leaped out from the east and instantly illuminated the entire river, turning it fiery red. As Xiao Chen watched the rising sun, he revealed a grave expression. He muttered, "Chu Chaoyan is like this rising sun. The instant he makes a move, it can pierce through the darkness of dawn. He is incomparably strong. He once defeated me in one move. If I cannot defeat him in the future, it might leave an eternal shadow in my heart." Xiao Chen withdrew his gaze and thought back to his fight with Chu Chaoyan. When he thought about it carefully, he realized that Chu Chaoyan had only used half a move to defeat him. This was because Chu Chaoyan had not fully drawn out that holy weapon. That was the most miserable battle that Xiao Chen had experienced since he made his debut. It could be said to be a heart demon. If Xiao Chen did not get rid of this heart demon, he would face a huge bottleneck sooner or later. Hence, a battle between him and Chu Chaoyan was inevitable. The cultivators on the ship were still discussing Chu Chaoyan. Xiao Chen walked to a quiet place and looked at the vast and boundless Black Dragon River. "Little brother, are you a disciple of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion?" As Xiao Chen looked into the distance, someone came over and greeted him. Xiao Chen turned his head and discovered it was a middle-aged man about 40 years old. He was an early medial grade martial saint. He wore azure robes and carried a large saber on his back. Xiao Chen nodded and said, "And I am a Qingyun Peak disciple. Why are you looking for me?" The middle-aged man smiled and said, "Nothing much. My son is a Heavenly Saber Pavilion disciple as well. I am going to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion this time as well. The journey is long. It would be good to find a companion to chat with. When Xiao Chun heard this, his expression relaxed. He smiled warmly and said, I wonder, what is your son's name? Perhaps I might know him. The middle-aged man revealed a proud expression as he said, My son is Gao Xiang, a Gongyu Peak disciple. He passed the test last year, and is already a core disciple. I believe his cultivation has already surpassed mine. Gongyu Peak, Gao Xiang. Xiao Chun was mildly startled in his heart. However, his expression did not change as he said, I know Gao Xiang. He was already a medial grade martial saint long ago. I wonder why uncle is looking for him. When the middle-aged man heard Xiao Chun say he knew Gao Xiang, he immediately revealed a joyful smile. He said, So you are friends with my son. What is little brother's name? It looks like this brat's abilities have already surpassed mine. It was not in vain that I spent a large sum of spirit stones to send him into the heavenly saber pavilion. That's right. What is my son doing now? He has not returned for a long time already. He has not written a letter either. This time, I am going to the Dongming province. Coincidentally, I passed by the heavenly saber pavilion and wanted to take a look. Xiao Chen's heart tightened. He did not know how to answer this question. He had seen Gao Xiang die in front of him. However, when he saw the smile on the middle-aged man's face, he could not bear to tell the truth. Perhaps it was as Yin Kursen said. There were no longer any true bladesmen in the heavenly saber pavilion. No matter how many reasons there were, they should not send their own disciples to their deaths. The anger in the hearts of the entire upper echelon of the heavenly saber pavilion had already vanished. After hesitating for a while, Xiao Chun said, I am Yi Chun. However, uncle, you might have made a wasted trip. Gao Xiang went out for experiential training 2 months ago. He probably will not be back until the end of the year. A look of disappointment flashed in the middle-aged man's eyes. He said, In that case, never mind. It is not easy to enter the heavenly saber pavilion. Thank you, little brother. Xiao Chun squeezed out a smile with much difficulty. He did his best to maintain a natural appearance and said, It is just a small matter. There is no need to be so polite. Quick look. What is that? Suddenly, someone on the deck cried out. Everyone quickly stopped talking and looked over. They saw a huge black figure quickly approaching the merchant ship on the river 1,000 meters away. In the next moment, the surface of the river started to fluctuate violently. A huge waterspout surged over. It's a black tuna whale, a peak rank 6 spirit beast. It is equivalent to an inferior grade martial king. Why are we so unlucky? We only traveled such a short distance, and we already met the black tuna whale. We are finished. When the people on the deck recognized the black tuna whale, they immediately panicked. When Xiao Chun saw the black tuna whale, he was stunned at first. Then he smiled and said, This is really fate. I managed to meet it again and again. Since you are here this time, don't think about leaving. Little brother, what are you doing? Don't be rash. Gao Xiang's father shouted when he saw Xiao Chun rush up to the deck. The youths nowadays are really reckless. They even dare to clash head-on with the black tuna whale. When the crowd saw Xiao Chun soar into the air, they all mocked him. Xiao Chun, who was in the air, had a calm expression. He ignored the mocking words of the people on the deck. He looked at the 200-meter-tall waterspout without any fear. His speed increased again. Rumble. Boundless clouds surged over from the horizon. The clear sky suddenly turned dark. Muffled sounds came from the clouds. Xiao Chen's state of thunder rose continuously. Drawing the saber. When his aura reached its peak, Xiao Chen shouted. A dazzling bolt of lightning tore through the sky, creating a purple waterspout. Xiao Chen drew the lunar shadow saber in his hand, and appeared at the same time as the bolt of lightning. While he was in the air, he carried a boundless aura. Using the might of the supreme thunder, he hacked down on the saber. A magnificent saber light lit up in the dark sky. With a schwa sound, the saber light chopped the horrifying waterspout in half. The terrifying waterspout immediately dispersed and turned into a sky full of rainwater. The rainwater fell onto the deck, drenching the cultivators on the deck. When the people below saw Xiao Chun hack apart the waterspout with his saber, they were shocked speechless for a long time. The people who said that Xiao Chun was reckless all had unnatural expressions on their faces. Small perfection state of thunder. I remember who he is now. He is the Qingyan Peak disciple from the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, who fought Mu Qingxue to a draw. So it is him. Since when did such a strong disciple appear in Qingyan Peak? I only remember that there was a Murong Chong in the past. However, he already left Qingyan Peak. What is this person called? Someone on the deck finally recognized Xiao Chun. They were all astonished. Gao Xiang's father smiled and said, "This person is called Yi Chun. He is my son's friend." Yi Chun. I have never heard of this name before. He should be a new young expert. It looks like the second Murong Chong of our Shiha province is going to rise up. Xiao Chun's figure flashed in the air and landed firmly on the water surface. Half a month ago, when Xiao Chun faced the weakened waterspout, he could use his physical body to shatter it. Now that he was a medial-grade martial saint, it was not strange for him to hack apart the waterspout with his saber. The blue dragon cloud soaring art circulated. Xiao Chun kicked up a huge wave on the water surface as he charged at the black tuna whale in the distance. From afar, it looked like he was flying on the water surface like a water dragon. Huchi! When the huge black tuna whale saw Xiao Chun rushing over quickly, it roared angrily in the water. Countless water swords immediately condensed on the water surface and shot at Xiao Chun. The water swords contained a horrifying energy. They gave off a ZZ sound as they moved through the air. They were incredibly fast. Xiao Chun grasped the lunar shadow saber and leaped continuously on the water surface. When he faced the water swords flying at him, he sent out a purple saber chi to protect himself. Chapter 283. Dang, dang, dang. The saber chi and the book sword that the black tuna whale sent out clashed intensely and exploded. The shockwaves from the explosion caused pillars of water to shoot up from the surface of the water. The river water filled the air. Xiao Chun's body moved nimbly through the shockwaves, passing through the layers of water as he stabbed at the black tuna whale. Pussy. The sharp tip of the saber cut a long gash on Hei Ting's body, causing blood to gush out like a fountain. On the surface of the water, the black tuna whale did not have any advantage against the astonishingly fast Xiao Chun. After it suffered, it immediately tried to sink to the bottom of the water. The black tuna whale's body was about the size of a huge merchant ship. With such a huge body, it wanted to sink to the bottom of the water. Xiao Chun did not have a good way to stop it. He could only leave a few more bloody wounds on it before it sank to the bottom. The electricity on the saber entered the black tuna whale's body through its wounds. Even though it sank to the bottom of the water, the electricity still crackled and flickered, leaving behind waves on the surface of the water. Suddenly, a huge whirlpool appeared under Xiao Chun's feet, trying to pull him in. Xiao Chun, who had experienced this before, naturally would not be trapped by the same move. Lightning evasion. After comprehending the state of thunder, Xiao Chun's usage of the lightning evasion became even more proficient. He could teleport within 100 meters in one breath. A bolt of lightning flashed by and Xiao Chun's body immediately landed 100 meters away, avoiding that huge whirlpool. Bang, 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 bang. Suddenly, there were 4 loud sounds on the surface of the water that had just calmed down. 4 waterspouts that were more than 200 meters long and 20 meters wide appeared around Xiao Chun. The waterspouts spun quickly on the surface of the water, filling the sky with rain. They formed a pincer as they quickly closed in on Xiao Chun. Every time the waterspouts spun, they visibly grew by 10 meters. When they were about to close in on each other, they were already very horrifying. Almost all of Xiao Chun's escape routes were blocked in all 4 directions. Even if he flew into the sky, it would not work. Xiao Chun tried to use the lightning evasion technique, but he found that the 4 waterspouts seemed to have formed some kind of barrier. The lightning evasion technique, which could teleport within 100 meters, was useless. Each of the 4 waterspouts had a force of several tens of thousands of jin. Added together, they had a terrifying force of 100,000 jin. The situation was critical, but Xiao Chun remained calm. He did not panic because he still had 2 trump cards that could help him get through this situation safely. However, he didn't plan to use it because the real enemy hadn't appeared yet, so it wasn't time to use it yet. 3 flowing cloud images. Xiao Chun drew a circle with his left hand and held the snow-white lunar shadow saber with his right. He danced in the air, creating an indistinct mark. His mental state was at peace and he immediately entered the state of perfection like water. Suddenly, his figure quickly became blurry. He kept moving on the surface of the water, like a small stream merging with the sea. His entire body turned into water. Bang! The 4 waterspouts merged together and gave off a loud sound. The entire surface of the Black Dragon River started to fluctuate violently. The merchant ship not far away was rocking left and right in the waves. The people on the deck did their best to maintain their balance in the midst of the huge waves. It's over. The 4 waterspouts together have a force of 100,000 jin. This fellow is going to fall here. The people on the deck looked at Xiao Chun being swallowed up by the waterspouts and said regretfully. The huge waterspout soared into the sky. It was more than 500 meters long. It was much stronger than any waterspout they had seen before. The black tuna whale had used up a lot of essence to create such a strong waterspout. Uchi. Just as everyone felt pity for Xiao Chun, a figure leaped out of the waterspout without any injuries. How can this be? That is a force of 100,000 jin. Even a medial-grade martial king would be crushed into meat paste. He is just a medial-grade martial saint. How can he be fine? The people on the deck exclaimed. Indeed, Xiao Chun would not be able to withstand a force of 100,000 jin. Even 25,000 jin of force would be enough to severely injure Xiao Chun. Unfortunately, this force was not from a fist. Instead, it was from the 4 waterspouts. After Xiao Chun entered the state of perfection like water, he merged with the water. How could this waterspout injure him? The dark clouds churned even more intensely in the sky. Occasionally, bolts of lightning tore through the sky. Xiao Chun's spiritual sense shot into the water like an arrow. He immediately found the black tuna whale at the bottom of the water. He smiled coldly and a boundless aura started to gather. Rumble! When Xiao Chun's aura gathered to its peak, a huge electric whirlpool appeared in the sky. Boundless lightning flickered around the whirlpool continuously. It formed a horrifying scene. It was like the end of the world. At this moment, Xiao Chun's heart was as calm as still water. He intended to try out a move that he had only imagined in the past. That was to merge all the moves of the Rushing Thunder Saber technique and form a new killing move. In the past, when Feng Feishua told him that the Rushing Thunder Saber technique still had the Rushing Thunder Third Chain Chop after the Rushing Thunder Second Chain Chop, Xiao Chun had never given up on trying to comprehend the Rushing Thunder Third Chain Chop. However, no matter what, the aura of the Rushing Thunder Saber technique was exhausted after the Rushing Thunder Second Chain Chop. It was impossible to follow up with the Rushing Thunder Third Chain Chop. From then on, Xiao Chun had a thought. Perhaps the true Rushing Thunder Third Chain Chop did not follow up with the Rushing Thunder Second Chain Chop. Instead, it was a completely new move. After he comprehended the state of thunder, Xiao Chun was even more certain of his thoughts. The so-called Rushing Thunder Third Chain Chop was actually the merging of all the previous saber techniques together. The aura that originally required 5 moves to be condensed was suddenly released together. Suddenly, Xiao Chun shouted loudly. Suddenly, countless riders riding on electric warhorses flew out from the huge electric whirlpool. It was like 10,000 horses galloping, vast and boundless. The sound of 10,000 horses galloping resounded in the sky. The sound of 1,000 soldiers crossing the river mixed with the rumbling thunder, doubling Xiao Chun's aura once again. This was the true Rushing Thunder Third Chain Chop. Rushing thunder roars, 10,000 horses galloping. In the next moment, Xiao Chun led the army and charged into the water from the sky. With a bang, a huge and dense purple saber chi split the wide surface of the Black Dragon River in half. Xiao Chun suddenly paused in midair. His rapidly descending body stopped in midair. His ordinary face was incomparably grave and stern. The bright lunar shadow saber quickly pointed at the black tuna whale, which had revealed itself. The vast army made of pure electricity immediately pounced over. Bang, bang, bang. Every rider that crashed into the mountain-like body of the black tuna whale would give off an intense explosion. Then, they would turn into strands of purple electricity floating in the air. The intense shockwaves from the explosions prevented the river on both sides from merging. The black tuna whale's body lay at the bottom of the river, unable to move. There were more than 10,000 explosions. The mountain-like black tuna whale was blasted until it was covered in wounds. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. Under the relentless attacks, it had no way of resisting at all. The instant all the explosions calmed down, Xiaochen swung his saber in the air. The boundless electricity floating on the water immediately infused into the saber. The snow-white lunar shadow saber gave off an intense purple light, looking very strange. Die! Xiaochen shouted and his figure flashed in the air. He arrived beside the black tuna whale, and did not lose any momentum. The lunar shadow saber easily blasted a 3-meter-tall hole in the black tuna whale's body. With a flip of his hand, a huge suction force appeared and sucked the peak rank 6 spirit core of the black tuna whale out of the hole. The black tuna whale was sucked out of the hole. The black tuna whale that terrified all the merchant groups on the Black Dragon River died just like that. When Xiaochen saw that the two sides of the river were about to merge, he pushed off the river and flew out before the river closed up. The crystalline black tuna whale spirit core in Xiaochen's hand gave off a gentle light. It contained dense water-attributed spiritual energy. This was a war trophy that belonged to the brave. I really can't believe it. The black tuna whale that roamed the Black Dragon River for so many years was actually killed by a youth. This is the nightmare of many merchant ships. Indeed, this is especially so in the water. Even some martial kings would find it difficult to stop it from escaping. This youth was able to think of the idea of trapping the black tuna whale at the bottom of the river. This is very shocking. Qingyun Peak's Yichun. Soon, this name will be as famous as Qingyun Peak's Murongchong throughout the Shiha River. Back then, Murongchong was also extremely talented. He challenged the 10 great bandit groups of the Great Devil Prairie by himself, and killed them until they were terror-stricken. At that time, the fame of Qingyun Peak was also spread for a period of time. However, I do not know why he left Qingyun Peak in the end. That final move earlier, aside from the fact that it takes a long time to gather its aura, practically no martial saint can break it. However, he is still young. This move should become more and more perfect. When the people on the deck saw Xiaochen kill the black tuna whale, they were all astonished. They said that a young genius had risen up once again. The thunderclouds in the sky slowly scattered and sunlight appeared once again. It shone on Xiaochen's body, giving him a faint layer of gold. His long figure was reflected on the water. When the river wind blew, Xiaochen's hair and clothes fluttered in the wind. It looked somewhat ethereal. Hu Qi. Just at this moment, a boundless killing qi suddenly appeared in the distant sky. The moment that killing qi appeared, it covered the sky. It was not concealed at all. It was sharp and radiated in all directions. It was like a gushing river, surging towards Xiaochen. Amidst the killing qi filling the air, Yu Mingshan appeared from a cloud. He swung out 100-meter-long saber. A saber qi containing a boundless sharpness flew towards Xiaochen. The saber qi rubbed against each other in the air, giving off a piercing sound. Everywhere it passed, the wind and clouds scattered. Ripples spread out in the air like water. Someone on the deck recognized Yu Mingshan and exclaimed, "It's Yu Mingshan! What is he trying to do?" Above the water, Xiaochen placed the black tuna whale's spirit core into his universe ring. When he felt the killing qi behind him, his expression did not change. He did not show any surprise. He smiled faintly. The person I have been waiting for has finally appeared. Chapter 284. Xiaochen was not surprised at Yu Mingshan's appearance. In fact, it was within his expectations. A large part of the reason why Xiaochen killed the black tuna whale in such a high-profile manner was to lure this person out. He knew that the other party was an extremely cautious cultivator. If Xiaochen did not reveal any openings or exhausted a large amount of essence, the other party would not make a move. Pussy eye. In the blink of an eye, that dense and surging saber qi had already arrived before Xiaochen. Glittering Wuxia. Xiaochen turned around and shouted, He spun his saber and a divine Wuxia tree branch appeared from nowhere. It turned into a strand of majestic purple saber chi and clashed with the saber chi. Rumble. At the same time that he sent out the saber chi, Xiaochen brought out his state of thunder. Thunder roared continuously. When the purple saber chi sounded, it expanded. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a surging saber chi as well. Boom. The two saber chi clashed in the air and gave off an intense explosion. They did not give way to each other. A pillar of water soared into the sky from the water. Yu Mingshan descended from the sky and landed firmly on the water. He felt that it was somewhat strange. Xiaochen's earlier rushing thunder roars should have exhausted a large amount of essence. How could he have excess essence to deal with the killing move that he had prepared so meticulously? Could it be that he had been holding back all this while? Xiaochen looked quietly at Yu Mingshan in front. A brilliant light flashed in his eyes. He said sullenly, "Who sent you to kill me? You are so patient, following me from the Devil Savannah all the way until now." Yu Mingshan said coldly, "There is no need for a dead person to ask so many questions." The saber in Yu Mingshan's hand flickered with a watery blue light. Killing chi surged from his body and ripples appeared on the water under his feet. Xiaochen smiled faintly. "Kill me? Do you think that you can escape today?" Wuxia transforms to chi. Xiaochen pushed off the water's surface and soared into the air. He sent out a saber light, and the ancient divine Wuxia tree appeared from nowhere. It turned into strands of resplendent saber chi and rained down on Yu Mingshan. The Wuxia transforms to chi contain the state of thunder. Every saber light was like a bolt of lightning breaking through the air. They resonated with the rumbling thunder in the sky, forming a strange mysterious phenomenon. A strange look flashed in Yu Mingshan's eyes. He knew that he had fallen into a trap this time. The other party had clearly lured him out on purpose. However, as a veteran of hundreds of battles, he knew that he couldn't afford to have stage fright at this moment. Otherwise, his momentum would plummet, and he might really lose his life here. Looking at the purple saber energy dancing in the sky, Yu Mingshan coldly snorted, "Insignificant tricks." Yu Mingshan brandished his saber and sent out a dense saber chi. Bang! 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 The purple saber chi flying at him immediately turned into chaotic electric currents. When comparing the quality of saber chi, Xiaochen, who was only a medial grade martial saint, was much weaker than Yu Mingshan, who was an inferior grade martial king. Even when he used the state of thunder, he did not have an advantage. Seeing that the Wuxia transforms to chi did not have much use, Xiaochen decisively withdrew his hand. He shouted and all the purple saber chi in the air returned to the lunar shadow saber. The saber gave off a bright purple glow. Muffled thunder roared in the sky. It was as though a peerless thunder was brewing. In the next moment, the light on the saber became so dazzling that it hurt one's eyes. Then it was released with a schwa sound. Chi breaks Wuxia. The peerless thunder that had been brewing in the sky resounded at the same time. The loud sound of thunder caused a huge wave to form on the water's surface. Pusai. A strand of purple saber chi pierced through the huge wave and quickly flew at Yu Mingshan. The saber chi's glow was withdrawn. It looked very simple. Yu Mingshan smiled in disdain and casually sent out a strand of saber chi. He smiled and said, "You overestimate yourself. You are just an inferior grade martial saint. Unexpectedly, you want to compete with me in saber chi." There was a qualitative difference between the saber chi of a martial king and a martial saint. A martial saint could only just send out saber chi. In terms of the density of saber chi, there was a world of difference between a martial king and a martial king. With a huala sound, something happened that caused Yu Mingshan to turn pale with fright. The saber chi that he sent out was easily shattered by Xiaochen's purple saber chi. It was unable to resist at all. So, Yu Mingshan did not dare to think too much. He immediately formed an essence barrier around himself and quickly dodged. However, by the time he wanted to move, it was already too late. That strand of purple saber chi looked very simple. However, it was extremely fast. It pierced through his essence barrier and left a bloody wound on his right arm. If he had not set up a yuan chi barrier in advance, his right arm might have been chopped off. As the huge wave crashed down, Xiaochen's figure soared through the air. His aura was like a rainbow, rushing to the 9 heavens. Yu Mingshan's expression turned sullen. The watery blue light of the saber in his hand gathered continuously. He said indifferently, "Do you think that you are the only one with a state? Go to hell." There was an explosive shout and there was a pung-pung sound on the water's surface. 18 pillars of water shot out and merged together, forming a sharp blue saber. With a schwa sound, it merged into the saber. The saber chi that was like a waterfall spewed out at Xiao Chen. What a strong state of water, Xiao Chen thought to himself. It looked like the other party had considered this when he chose to make a move in the water. The might of the state of water would be even more horrifying on the water's surface. However, it was clear that the other party's state was not as strong as Xiao Chen's. The state of water could only be considered to be at the beginner level. If it were not for the fact that his cultivation was much higher than Xiao Chen's, it would be impossible for him to have such might. Roaming Dragon's 9 transformations. 9 cool breezes blew on the water's surface. The instant Xiao Chen executed the Roaming Dragon's 9 transformations, he immediately executed the clear wind chop. His figure flickered. It was hard to distinguish the real from the fake. He immediately dodged the waterfall-like saber chi and successfully approached Yu Mingshan. Instantly the killing chi vanished. There were only 6 gentle breezes on the water's surface. Yu Mingshan's expression turned grave. He had a deeper understanding of the might of the clear wind chop than anyone else. Yu Mingshan stomped on the water's surface and a 10-meter-tall water screen rose up around him. The water screen spread out in all directions. The instant Xiao Chen's figure passed through the water screen, the other 8 clones were destroyed by the strange energy contained in the water screen. It turned out that Yu Mingshan had used his strong state of water to destroy Xiao Chen's state of wind. The strong clear wind chop was destroyed. When Yu Mingshan saw Xiao Chen's true body remaining, he revealed a sinister smile. He said, "Without the clear wind chop, let's see how you are going to fight me in close combat." When a martial king compared to a martial saint, the greatest advantage was speed. Even a peak martial saint's speed was only close to the speed of sound. Furthermore, they did not have a flying martial technique and could not fly. However, a martial king was different. Not only could they break the speed of sound, they could also fly easily. A peak martial king could even reach the speed of sound with a casual step. In terms of speed, a martial saint and a martial king could not be compared. In close combat, they could end the battle in a few moves. This was because a martial saint could not even touch a martial king. That was why Yu Mingshan said this. Chi-Chi. Xiao Chen executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art to its limits. His body created a piercing sonic boom as he moved through the air. He sent out a saber light, sending an unending stream of attacks at Yu Mingshan. A purple electric light spread through the air. It was like an electric net. Yu Mingshan had a relaxed expression. His body moved very quickly. It was like he had merged with the cool wind. He did not make any sound and easily dodged Xiao Chen's attacks. One of them moved and the other stayed still. Xiao Chen's aura was like a rainbow and his voice was like thunder. However, his speed was always slower. He was unable to touch Yu Mingshan's body. Sometimes, Xiao Chen relied on technique. When the saber got close to Yu Mingshan, it would be easily broken by his saber. Slowly, Yu Mingshan grasped the rhythm of the battle. Xiao Chen wanted to retreat a few times, but he was blocked by his opponent's ghostly figure. He could not retreat even if he wanted to. Only at this moment did Yu Mingshan heave a sigh of relief. All I need to do is control the rhythm. I will slowly grind him down first. When his aura reaches rock bottom, I will deal a lightning-fast strike and completely defeat him, eliminating any future problems. Yu Mingshan dodged Xiao Chen's attack again. He said, "Give up and surrender. I will give you a quick death." Perhaps you do not know this, but the greatest difference between a martial saint and a martial king is the difference in speed. This is an insurmountable gap, unless you are a wind-attributed cultivator. Unfortunately, you are not, haha. This was not the first time Yu Mingshan used words to attack his opponent in battle. This was especially so when his opponent was at rock bottom. Using words to attack a cultivator with weak willpower could cause them to go berserk, revealing a large opening. This could save him a lot of effort. When fighting with others, one had to always hold back. This was Yu Mingshan's rule. This was because there were always some unexpected things in the world. So if he could save some energy, he would. As he spoke, Yu Mingshan caught hold of a small opening of Xiao Chen's. His figure flashed quickly, and his saber cut a small wound on Xiao Chen's chest. He smiled faintly. This is the difference. I can easily attack you, but you cannot attack me. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. The instant Yu Mingshan finished speaking, the saber in his hand pierced out from a strange angle, aiming for Yu Mingshan's chest. Yu Mingshan was startled, and he quickly dodged backward, avoiding a vital point. This saber broke through his essence barrier, and only left a small wound. Yu Mingshan's expression changed slightly. He thought to himself, I cannot be too careless. Although this brat is slower than me, he is only slower by a bit. After that, Yu Mingshan became even more cautious. Occasionally, he would leave wounds on Xiao Chen's body. As for Xiao Chen, no matter how hard he tried, he could not attack him. Above the water, the two of them moved quickly. Saber lights shot out in all directions, causing pillars of water to rise into the sky. This continued for half an hour. Yu Mingshan's eyes lit up. It is time, there is no need to drag this out. His state of thunder is at least half as strong as before. Die. Water dragon burst. Yu Mingshan shouted loudly, and a wall of water hundreds of meters tall appeared on the water surface behind him. The waves surged, and the huge merchant ship swayed left and right. It looked very small, as though it could capsize at any moment. Chapter 285. The horrifying wall of water suddenly spun rapidly, forming a huge roaring water dragon. At this moment, the might of Yu Mingshan's state of water was raised to the limit. In an instant, it scattered Xiao Chen's state of thunder. The dark clouds in the sky scattered and sunlight shone down once again, shining on Yu Mingshan's sinister face. He revealed an extremely cruel smile. The dragon moved its head, moving faster than the speed of sound. It merged with the sound of the wind and left a formless shockwave in the air. Before it got close to Xiao Chen, the huge shockwave knocked Xiao Chen back. Bang! With a schwa sound, the water dragon caught up to Xiao Chen, who was tumbling on the water. It crashed into him, and the huge force formed a huge whirlpool on the water. There was a loud boom, and Xiao Chen's body sank to the bottom of the water. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. The Black Dragon River had surging waves. The merchant ship bobbed up and down for a long time before it slowly came to a stop. It's over, the state of thunder has scattered. Yi Chen faced Yu Mingshan's full-powered strike head-on. Even if he doesn't die, he will be severely injured. The most important thing is that he is currently above the water. The might of the water dragon burst will be greatly amplified. It is equivalent to the strength of a medial-grade martial saint. How unfortunate! Qingyan Peak finally produced a genius. Before he could rise up, he was killed by Yu Mingshan. The older the ginger, the spicier. Who knows? Why did Yu Mingshan want to kill Yi Chen? They do not seem to have any grudges. The many cultivators on the deck shook their heads and sighed. They felt that it was a pity. They thought that Xiao Chen had no chance of surviving this time. The sunlight shone on the clear water. The calm Black Dragon River was sparkling. It was very beautiful. Yu Mingshan stood on the water and extended his perception, scanning the situation under the water. However, after looking for a long time, he could not feel Xiao Chen's aura. Looks like he died immediately. His body was blown up by the water dragon and died without a complete corpse. This is difficult. I wonder how to explain this to Song Quebec. Yu Mingshan frowned slightly and shook his head. He turned around and prepared to leave. Just at this moment, layers of dark clouds suddenly swept over from the bright and beautiful sky. In the blink of an eye, the sky suddenly became dark and gloomy, and endless thunder sounded once again. Yu Mingshan stopped in his tracks. His expression changed greatly as he said, "How did it become like this?" Bang! There was a splash on the surface of the water. Xiao Chen leaped out unscathed. The saber in his hand flickered with an electric light. It emitted killing chi as it pointed at Yu Mingshan. Yu Mingshan said in disbelief, "Why? My peak attack did not injure you at all." It was just a secret treasure, Xiaochen smiled faintly in his heart. Of course, he would not tell Yu Mingshan about it, he would just let him guess. Yu Mingshan's sharp eyes noticed the jade pendant on Xiaochen's chest. He suddenly understood and said, "So it is a secret treasure. However, this kind of secret treasure has a limited number of uses. Since your speed is not as fast as mine, I will not lose." Xiaochen sneered. "Is that so? Windwalk shoes activate." The instant the windwalk shoes activated, Xiaochen's figure flashed on the surface of the water. There was no sound at all as he arrived before Yu Mingshan at lightning speed. A purple saber light flashed and thunder roared in the sky. Xiaochen's state and move merged perfectly, startling Yu Mingshan. In a hurry, Yu Mingshan held his saber horizontally in front of him. However, because he was caught off guard, he was knocked back 5 or 6 meters. What a fast speed! How did he break through the speed of sound in an instant? His speed is comparable to mine. Yu Mingshan stepped on the water, creating splashes. He finally stopped moving back. However, he was astonished in his heart. Wuxia shakes the earth. After spending so much effort, Xiaochen had figured out Yu Mingshan's strength. It was time to counterattack. Xiaochen shouted and a fierce electric light burned on his saber. The ancient divine Wuxia tree appeared on the water surface. After a while, it turned into a tree of electric light several hundred meters tall, pressing down on Yu Mingshan. This was the fourth move of the Wuxia saber technique's killing move, absolute kill. When he made his move, he could put his opponent in a desperate situation. Yu Mingshan's expression changed again. The huge divine Wuxia tree gave him a horrifying pressure. He circulated his essence continuously and 18 water droplets exploded behind him. The water droplets gathered and formed a sharp saber. It was like a waterfall as it rushed forward. Bang! The moment they came into contact, the divine Wuxia tree shattered Yu Mingshan's waterfall saber chi. The comprehension of their states was on a completely different level. Xiaochen's state of thunder had already reached the peak of small perfection. Every move he made could be infused into his state. As for Yu Mingshan, he had only just started. He could only use his state to increase the might of his martial techniques. Once Xiaochen used a peak martial technique, the quality of his essence would be equal to Yu Mingshan's. His martial techniques infused with his state would no longer be sufficient. The divine Wuxia tree struck Yu Mingshan's body with a boom. It broke through his essence shield and entered his body. It turned into a berserk energy rampaging through his meridians. Yu Mingshan vomited a large mouthful of blood and suppressed the chaotic essence in his body. His complexion was somewhat pale as he said, "Damn it! Even if this old man has to risk his life, I will kill you." Double dragon burst. There was a ferocious roar and a horrifying wall of water appeared on the water surface. It turned into 2 huge water dragons and flew at Xiaochen. Xiaochen's expression was calm. There were not many fluctuations. If his opponent had used this move from the start, Xiaochen would not have been able to block it. Unfortunately, his opponent was too cautious. The chi in a cultivator's heart had already disappeared. He no longer had any sharpness. He only thought about how to obtain a complete victory. He dared to suffer even the slightest injury. Now that Xiaochen had missed this opportunity and executed this move while he was severely injured, its might would be reduced by at least half. Even if he did not have a secret treasure, there was nothing to fear. Xiaochen shouted, and a purple light started to circulate on the water surface under Xiaochen's feet. After a while, it formed a strange flower bud, wrapping around Xiaochen. Bang! Bang! The 2 water dragons struck the purple flower bud and gave off 2 loud sounds. Waves surged up and shock waves spread out. A barrier of water dozens of meters tall appeared in the surroundings. When the barrier of water fell back and the river surface calmed down, the purple flower bud was still as good as before. There were no signs of damage. Wuxia blossoms! Xiaochen shouted from within the flower bud. The petals suddenly bloomed, looking very beautiful. Then Xiaochen leaped out from the petals. Immediately, petals filled the air. Wuxia blossoms bloomed in the air. As the petals fluttered, Xiaochen passed through the countless petals and quickly arrived before Yu Mingshan. Xiaochen stabbed out with his saber. It was so fast that no one could think. Petals filled the air. This saber strike was very beautiful. Rumble. Yu Mingshan's body was knocked back by this saber strike. He left a long mark on the water surface as he flew for more than a kilometer. The purple flowers that filled the air quickly chased after Yu Mingshan. A whirlwind formed in the air, and all the petals merged back into a strange Wuxia flower. The Wuxia flower flowed through Xiaochen's wound and quickly entered Yu Mingshan's body. Xiaochen did not move from his original position. He straightened his saber and used 2 fingers on his left hand to slowly move from the bottom of the saber to the tip. He shouted softly, "Wuxia supporting the heavens." A Wuxia tree trunk grew out of Yu Mingshan's chest from nowhere as he struggled to stand. As Xiaochen's fingers moved, the tree trunk grew larger and larger. It grew at a visible rate. After a while, countless branches sprouted from the tree trunk. Then countless branches branched out from the branches. Many purple Wuxia flowers bloomed. In just a few blinks of an eye, the tree trunk in front of Yu Mingshan's chest had turned into a towering tree. It was more than 200 meters tall, and had many branches. Flowers bloomed everywhere. This was the true profoundness of Wuxia blossoms. It infused energy into the enemy's body. Initially, it did not have much power. However, the next move, Wuxia supporting the heavens, would erupt. Even if you were a martial king, you would lose all your combat prowess under this move. On the water surface, Yu Mingshan looked at the tree in front of his chest in horror. He felt that all the roots of the tree had already penetrated into his body, firmly grabbing onto his internal organs. His internal organs were all injured. He would not be able to recover without at least a year's time. Furthermore, Yu Mingshan felt an indescribable pain all over his body. Boundless electricity tormented him every second. However, this Wuxia supporting the heavens exhausted a lot of essence. Xiaochen could not maintain it for too long. When the Wuxia tree completely disappeared, Yu Mingshan was already half dead. His pale face was filled with pain as he watched Xiaochen slowly walk over. Yu Mingshan was so frightened that he turned pale. He pushed off the water surface and his body flew up unsteadily. Xiaochen looked at the miserable Yu Mingshan in the air and smiled faintly. He took out the Soul Slayer bow from the universe ring and did not nock an arrow. Instead, he pulled the bowstring. Bang! The bowstring sounded out and Yu Mingshan's body fell into the water with a bang, sinking completely into the water. The great Yu Mingshan was actually killed by a youth, until he was like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bow. How regretful. Someone on the deck sighed softly. First he killed the evil beast. Then he defeated a martial king. This Qingyun Peak's Yi Chun is really horrifying. I originally thought that he would need some time to rise up. It looks like he has already risen up. The experts of the older generation are no longer able to do anything to him. Indeed, he is probably on par with Morongchong. Only these geniuses are able to fight someone of a higher cultivation realm. The Nanling province has Ji Chongkong and Mu Qingxue. The Dongming province has Hua Yinkong, Duan Miqing, and the strong Chu Chaoyan. Our Shiha province finally has another person who can compare to these geniuses. These are all top-notch geniuses. In any previous generation, their accomplishments would be limitless. However, so many of them appeared in one go. In the future, there will definitely be a fierce battle. Don't forget about the experts of the royal courts. The people of the royal court are all geniuses. Furthermore, there is the demonic genius Princess Yingyu. If we count them all, there are too many geniuses in the younger generation of our great Qin nation. With so many geniuses, I wonder who will obtain the greatest luck in the end. It looks like it will be Princess Yingyu from the royal court. She suppressed everyone with her strength. I wonder what will happen in the future. We cannot forget about Princess Yingyu. Her lifespan is limited. She will lose her luck sooner or later. Chapter 286. I remember that there was once a person in the Dongming province who defeated many geniuses of the Dongming province. He even spent a large sum of money to challenge the noble clans. With such boldness, he must be an extraordinary genius. That's right. Now the noble clans have doubled the bounty for this person. Together, the bounty is 10,000 medial grade spirit stones. However, This person seems to have vanished without a trace, never appearing again. When the people on the deck saw Xiao Chen beat up Yu Mingshan, they all sighed. This battle was full of twists and turns. It was very thrilling and exciting. It was very satisfying to watch. Xiao Chen was always able to surprise everyone. When everyone thought that he was in a hopeless situation, he would turn the situation around and defeat his opponent. The dark clouds above the water scattered, and the sunlight shone down once again. Xiao Chen stood on the water and his spiritual sense pierced through the water like an arrow, searching for Yu Mingshan's figure. There were strange fish in the river. With Yu Mingshan's current condition, he might not be able to block these man-eating fish. Xiao Chen did not want Yu Mingshan to die just like that. The reason why Xiao Chen did not knock an arrow earlier was because he was afraid of shooting Yu Mingshan to death. After that, he would not be able to get anything out of him. At the bottom of the dark water, Yu Mingshan dragged his injured body and swam quickly in the water. Strange ripples shot out in all directions, repelling the strange fish that attacked him. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "I forgot this person is a water-attributed cultivator. His ability to survive in the river is much stronger than a regular cultivator's." Xiao Chen was not surprised at Yu Mingshan's strong desire to survive. This kind of person would think carefully before doing anything. To put it nicely, he was cautious. To put it bluntly, he was greedy for life and afraid of death. He did not have boldness. However, he did not know that the path of a cultivator was filled with danger. It was a fight with one's life in the first place. If one did not have great courage and the sharpness in one's heart did not fade, how could one overcome difficulties after difficulties? If one always thought about how to use tricks to overcome difficulties, once the sharpness faded, one would never be able to go far on the path of a cultivator. "Come out." Xiao Chen collected his thoughts and gently pushed off the surface of the river. He appeared above Yu Mingshan and punched the surface of the water. Bang! Immediately, a huge pillar of water surged out from the Black Dragon River. At the end of the pillar of water was Yu Mingshan's figure. He was knocked into the air and was frantically trying to move his body. Xiao Chen leaped into the air and grabbed him by the collar, landing firmly on the ground. Yu Mingshan revealed a horrified expression on his pale face. He said, "Don't kill me, I have 50,000 inferior grade spirit stones in my hands, and 1,000 medial grade spirit stones. Let me go, they are all yours." Xiao Chen ignored him and said coldly, "Speak, who sent you to kill me?" Yu Mingshan first shook his head. Then he felt Xiao Chen's killing intent. He immediately said, I'll speak. It's Song Ke, Bien Peak Song Quebec. He promised me 2,000 medial grade spirit stones to kill you." Song Ke? A trace of killing intent flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. This was not unexpected. Xiao Chen really did not dare to let his guard down even for a moment. It was a pity that he couldn't do anything to Song Ke right now. He wasn't a match for Song Ke, and he couldn't find an opportunity to do so. In the future, when his strength increased, the first thing he had to do was to get rid of Song Quebec. Boom! Xiao Chen removed the spatial ring from Yu Mingshan's hand and smashed his chest with his palm. Yu Mingshan's heart meridians shattered, and blood flowed out of all his orifices. He said in dissatisfaction, "Didn't you say you would not kill me?" Xiao Chen was expressionless as he said sullenly, "Sorry, I never said that. I am a person who does not leave behind future trouble for myself." Seeing Yu Mingshan's corpse slowly fall into the water, Xiao Chen glanced at the merchant ship not far away. After thinking for a while, he decided to cross the Black Dragon River. He did not want to take that merchant ship anymore. The main reason was that he was afraid of unnecessary socializing and wasting time. Xiao Chen's figure flashed in the air as he used the gravity spell and flew up. 3 days later, at night, on the Devil Savannah, Xiao Chen sat beside a bonfire and ate some roasted lightning beef. The meat of spirit beasts was even more fragrant and delicious than the meat of earth. There was no need for any seasoning, and it was already very delicious, leaving one with a lingering aftertaste. Furthermore, the meat of spirit beasts contained some natural spiritual energy. Eating it over a long period of time could strengthen the body and replenish qi. If one ate the meat of a higher-ranked spirit beast, such as a rank 8 or legendary rank 9 spirit beast, it could even raise one's cultivation realm. A heavy fragrance wafted through the devil savanna, attracting a large number of spirit beasts. However, when these spirit beasts saw Xiao Chen, they did not dare to make a move. They only looked from afar before scattering. Xiao Chen scanned the area with his spiritual sense and saw all this. He revealed a faint smile. 2 days ago, Xiao Chen used the gravity spell to fly to the devil's savanna. After that, he started to practice his saber on the bandits and spirit beasts that he encountered. After accumulating experience in actual combat, Xiao Chen became more familiar with the first 6 moves of the Wuxia saber technique. Furthermore, the newly created Rushing Thunder Triple Chain Chop also became easier to use. Xiao Chen already had good control over the period of storing energy. He could release and withdraw it as he pleased. The longer he could store his energy, the stronger it would be. The shorter the time, the weaker it would be. He needed to use it flexibly. The might of the Rushing Thunder roars was much stronger than Xiao Chen had imagined. Previously, when he had stored energy for a minute, he had been able to destroy it with 10,000 horses galloping. What Xiao Chen needed to do now was to raise his energy in the shortest time possible. That way, this move would become Xiao Chen's new killing move, an important trump card. Wuxia. A snow-white figure appeared in Xiao Chen's vision in the dark night. When he looked carefully, he discovered that it was Bai. He was holding some spirit herbs in his hands as he rushed over. Just like before, when Xiao Chen and Bai were alone, Bai would help him search for rare spirit herbs. Most of these spirit grasses were refined into higher-grade blood-replenishing pills and qi-returning pills. This allowed Xiao Chen to have medicinal pills to use without spending money on spirit herbs. This was a great help to him. Bai presented the spirit herbs in his hands like he was presenting a treasure. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and counted them carefully. Rank 4 Blood Sunflower. Rank 500 Jade Spirit. Rank 4 Gentleman Windflower. Hey, this looks like a tendon refining flower. Xiao Chen noticed the white flower. That flower was very simple. It did not have any bright colors or a strong fragrance. It was very simple. Xiao Chen held it in his hands and looked at it carefully. He finally confirmed that this was the tendon refining flower. It could increase the toughness of a cultivator's meridians and repair damaged meridians. It was very precious. There were many spirit herbs that could repair meridians. However, none of them were as good as the tendon refining flower. The tendon refining flower could even repair a cultivator's meridians. This was why it was so precious. Essence had to pass through the meridians before it could circulate freely. If the meridians were damaged, the cultivator would not be able to circulate essence. If Xiao Chen could increase the toughness of the meridians to a considerable level, then he would not have to worry about forcefully using too much essence when he was cultivating or fighting in the future, causing his meridians to be damaged. Although Bai did not know the importance of the tendon refining flower, when he saw Xiao Chen's happy expression, his face revealed a joyful expression. Xiao Chen put away the tendon refining flower. Suddenly, a doubt appeared in his mind. For a rare herb like the tendon refining flower, there would definitely be a strong spirit beast guarding it. Although Bai was strong and very fast, he should not have been able to obtain the tendon refining flower so easily. Could there be something that I don't know? Xiao Chen squatted down and asked. Bai, tell me the truth. How did you obtain this tendon refining flower? When Bai heard Xiao Chen's question, he immediately lowered his head. He was like a child who had done something wrong. He did not dare to look into Xiao Chen's eyes. Could it be that he snatched it from someone else? Xiao Chen felt ashamed in his heart. If he snatched a spirit beast, Bai would not lower his head. He did not know who he snatched it from. Dong, dong, dong. Just as Xiao Chen was thinking about whether or not he should return the tendon refining flower to someone else, the sound of hurried horse hooves could be heard. There should be a lot of people because the ground was trembling slightly. A group of more than 200 bandits appeared in front of Xiao Chen. One of them pointed at Bai and said excitedly, First Leader, I did not lie to you, right? The tendon refining flower did not belong to me. It was snatched away by a little fox. Look, I was not wrong. There was indeed a little fox. Pa. The leader of the bandits was dressed in snow-white battle robes. He looked very dazzling in the dark night. He slapped the person who spoke and scolded him angrily. "Fool! Why are you so excited after a spirit beast snatched something away?" The other bandits all laughed loudly. Indeed, they were the most terrifying group of bandits in the Devil Savannah. They had always been robbing others and killing spirit beasts. Since when did they get snatched away by a spirit beast? This was a disgrace to bandits. The bandit on the ground felt a burning pain on his face. When he heard the laughter of the crowd, his face turned even hotter. He wished he could find a hole to hide in. Suddenly he looked at Bai and revealed a ferocious glint in his eyes. He pounced forward and scolded. "I don't believe I cannot deal with you. Watch how I teach you a lesson." Before Xiaochen could make a move, Bai turned around and swung his arm to the right. There was a strong wind, and the bandit that pounced over was immediately blown away. Even Lu Suifeng, an inferior grade martial saint, was toyed around by Bai. How could a martial grand master bandit be a match for Bai? That bandit landed headfirst on the ground and rolled a few times. When he got up, he could not even tell his bearings. He walked towards the first leader of the bandits in a daze and scolded, "Little bastard! Don't think that just because you are on a horse, I will not recognize you." After he said that, he charged over again. The first leader was furious. He sent out a palm wind and knocked this person away. He said with a sullen face, "Just trash, I don't care about you." When Bai felt the killing intent from the first leader, he felt some danger. He immediately jumped onto Xiaochen's shoulder and felt safer. He made a face at the bandits. What the hell? Even foxes know how to make faces these days. When the crowd saw Bai's face, they were all astonished. Since it belongs to the bandits, I will just snatch it, Xiaochen thought to himself. Xiaochen swept his gaze across this group of bandits. Of the 200 people, the weakest was a medial grade martial grand master. The core of the group was 20 martial saints. The first leader, who was wearing white battle robes, had the most horrifying cultivation. He was a superior grade martial saint. He should be weaker than Xiaochen when he first left the mountain. As for now, he was no longer on the same level as Xiaochen. Chapter 287. The white-robed bandit slowly rode his black warhorse to within 10 meters of Xiaochen. He said with a sullen expression, "Regardless of whether you took my tendon refining flour or not, hand over your spatial ring. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing you." Xiaochen revealed a faint smile and said softly, "If you are capable, then come and take it yourself." Reckless. The white-robed bandit exerted strength in his legs, and his warhorse charged at Xiaochen at lightning speed. The killing chi of the white-robed bandit merged with the baleful aura of the warhorse. It was like a sharp sword charging at Xiaochen's deity C. Unexpectedly, this white-robed bandit knew some mental attacks. Unfortunately, Xiaochen's spiritual sense was very strong. He did not fear mental attacks of this level. "Since you want to play with mental attacks, I'll play with you." Xiaochen's lips curled up in a cold smile. His vast spiritual sense turned into a deity holding a sharp sword. With a piu, it shattered the sharp sword flying at him and charged at the white-robed bandit. Suddenly, the white-robed bandit felt everything in front of him disappear. He found himself in a desolate land. A spiritual sense in the sky looked down at him majestically and gave off a resounding voice. "Why are you not kneeling when you see a deity?" The white-robed bandit panicked. He immediately realized that this was a mental illusion. He quickly bit the tip of his tongue, and the pain brought him back to his senses. This deity was something that Xiaochen had created casually by imitating the mark left behind by the sages in the silver warship. It did not have much use in actual combat. It could only stun enemies of the same cultivation level for an instant. However, this instant was sufficient. By the time the white-robed bandit recovered his senses, he discovered that Xiaochen had already kicked at him from the air at some point in time. Bang! Before the shocked gazes of the bandits, the white-robed bandit could not react in time, and was sent flying by the kick. While Xiaochen was in the air, when he landed, he gently stepped on the back of the warhorse. A huge force immediately pressed the warhorse to the ground, making it unable to get up again. Clouds began to gather in the sky. Lightning streaked across the night sky, emitting resplendent light. Amidst the boundless light, Xiaochen used the force of his kick to soar into the sky. As he flew, his aura continued to accumulate. Suddenly, a huge lightning vortex formed in the sky. The roars and gallops of a vast army came from the whirlpool. The sound was deafening, echoing for dozens of kilometers. "It's him. He's that violet lightning fiend. Run!" Someone among the bandits suddenly shouted in horror. Then the 200-odd bandits desperately pulled on the reins and turned around. However, at this moment, the war horses under them could not be controlled, neighing crazily. The bandits quickly abandoned their horses and fled. No matter what the white-robed bandit said, they did not stop. When the white-robed bandit saw that the situation was hopeless, and that the few core martial saints had already started to flee, he sighed heavily and turned around to flee as well. Thunder roared. 10,000 horses galloped. Xiaochen gently pointed the saber in his hand downwards. Countless knights on thunder warhorses leaped down from the whirlpool and landed on the ground. Then they quickly chased after the scattered bandits. In the dark night, these knights flickering with electric light turned into purple shadows. They galloped around the Devil Savannah at night, looking very dazzling. Bang! 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 Explosions rang out continuously. Without exception, the 200 bandits were all struck. The weaker bandits were blasted into smithereens by the combined attacks of the many knights, dying on the spot. Only the martial saints and above managed to survive. Their complexions turned pale, and they vomited blood. They quickly fled into the distance without looking back. Xiaochen shook his head slightly. The might was still insufficient. He had gathered his aura in a hurry. He had to think of a way to quickly raise his aura to its peak. Withdrawing his gaze, Xiaochen ignored the scattered bandits. He focused his attention on the white-robed bandit that he had focused on. Under Xiaochen's control, at least 100 electric knights crashed into the white-robed bandit. Although the other party could still fight, they were no longer a threat to Xiaochen. Lightning evasion. An electric light flashed and Xiaochen landed beside the white-robed bandit. He repeated what the white-robed bandit had said earlier. "No matter what your purpose is, I only want the spatial ring in your hand. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." The white-robed bandit struggled for a while before he took off the ring and handed it to Xiaochen. He said coldly, "Don't look down on the Devil Savannah. This is not a place where you can move unhindered." Xiaochen smiled faintly and ignored him. He had never been arrogant enough to think that he could move unhindered in the Devil Savannah. The Devil Savannah was vast and boundless. The entire savannah was about half the size of the Shiha province. Furthermore, this was only within the Great Qin nation. It extended beyond the borders and was even larger. It could be said that the Devil Savannah was just the tip of the iceberg. With such a large area and countless bandit groups, Xiaochen had always been cautious. When he ran into a strong bandit group, he would immediately avoid them with his spiritual sense. He would not have any other thoughts. After all the bandits had left, Xiaochen looked in the direction of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion and prepared to travel through the night. The commotion tonight was too big. He was afraid of startling some strong bandit groups. It was safer to travel through the night. In the Devil Savannah, where the tendon refining flower grew, Murongchong looked at the empty ground and the corpse of the spirit beast guarding it. He frowned. "Huchi." There was a soft sound of wind behind him. Murongchong sensed it and quickly turned around. He saw a mysterious person wearing white clothes and a white mask appear in front of him. The mysterious person in white said in a hoarse voice, "Murongchong, you seem to have forgotten our agreement. You have entered the Devil Savannah once again." Murongchong said sullenly, "I am only here to search for the tendon refining flower. I have no other purpose. Aside from me, only your people know about the tendon refining flower. I am willing to pay 1 million inferior grade spirit stones to exchange for it." The mysterious person in white said, "Even if you pay 10 million, it is useless. Someone took it away yesterday." Murongchong's expression changed. He emitted a surging killing chi. A murderous intent appeared on his stern face as he said, "Who?" "He is also a Qingyun Peak disciple like you." "Oh, I forgot that you are no longer a Qingyun Peak disciple. The person in white said indifferently. Morong Chang's killing qi quickly dissipated. He was very adept at releasing it. He had a pensive look on his face as he said, "Since he took it, it is all the same. I will take my leave first." Ooh. The figure of the person in white suddenly moved. It was as though he teleported and instantly appeared behind Morong Chong. Then he sent out a palm strike. Morong Chong quickly turned around and sent out a palm strike. A huge force pushed Morong Chong back 10 steps. His complexion paled and blood leaked out of the corner of his mouth. The person in white took a step back. No, the expression under the mask was somewhat astonished. He said, "This palm strike is the price for breaking the agreement. The reason why an agreement is called an agreement is because there is no reason to break it." Morong Chong looked coldly at the person in white. He did not say anything and turned around, disappearing from the vast savanna. Glittering Wukuei. Xiaoqin shouted and a saber light flickered. A saber chi made of a divine Wukuei tree branch flew towards a group of bandits with a schwa sound. Blood spurted out and miserable cries resounded. The dense purple saber chi was boundlessly tyrannical. Several bandits were knocked off their horses. Wukuei transforms to chi. The divine Wukuei tree of the ancient divine valley appeared. After a while, it turned into saber chi that filled the air. It danced around in the air and chopped a large group of bandits in half. Chi breaks Wukuei. Xiaoqin shouted and the saber chi in the air gathered back on his saber. It turned into an extremely dense saber chi. The leader of the bandits could not dodge in time, and the saber chi pierced through his chest. With the death of the leader, all the bandits immediately scattered, fleeing in all directions. Xiaoqin ignored them. After he took away the spatial ring of the bandit leader, he quickly left the place. Xiaoqin was not in a rush as he walked through the devil savanna. He treated this return journey as experiential training. During the day, he would kill strong spirit beasts and bandits. At night, he would use medial-grade spirit stones to raise his cultivation. When Bai gathered enough spirit herbs, he would refine medicinal pills. Xiaoqin strength soared every day. However, on this morning, he suddenly felt uncomfortable in his heart. This feeling had been present for the past few days. However, it was very mild. Xiaoqin did not mind it. It was only when he got closer to the heavenly saber pavilion that this uncomfortable feeling became stronger. It was impossible to ignore. Could something have happened at the heavenly saber pavilion? Xiaoqin looked in the direction of the heavenly saber pavilion. He had a bad feeling. I have to rush at full speed. I cannot stay here any longer. Otherwise, I will not know what happened. I will feel uncomfortable in my heart, Xiaoqin muttered to himself. Xiaoqin executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art and turned into a purple shadow. He started to move quickly on the vast devil savanna. Along the way, he met with bandits and strong spirit beasts. However, Xiaoqin ignored them. He simply avoided them. 2 days later, Xiaoqin was already halfway through the devil savanna. He would reach the heavenly saber pavilion in another 5 days. Just as Xiaoqin was about to stop and rest, a group of bare-chested people wearing only shorts appeared in the distance in Xiaoqin's vision. Xiaoqin sat on the ground and drank a mouthful of water. He smiled faintly and said, "I wonder which group of bandits ran into Kim Fatso." Kim Fatso was different from Xiaoqin. He did not kill people, he only sought wealth. However, when he ran into Kim Fatso's bandits, he felt even worse than death. This fellow's stingy character was displayed to the extreme when he ran into the bandits. Aside from leaving the bandits with a pair of shorts, he would not leave them with anything else. This kind of humiliation was even worse than death. Only Kim Taeho could do such a thing. Just at this moment, a familiar voice came from the wind. Xiaoqin frowned slightly and stood up suspiciously. Why did he seem to hear Kim Taeho's voice? Looking up, Xiaoqin saw the faces of some people. They looked like the guards of Kim Taeho that he had seen in the past. Xiaoqin went over to take a look. He put away his water bottle and quickly leaped forward. After a while, he finally saw the people in front clearly. What he saw shocked him. Chapter 288. The group of people in front of him were indeed Kim Taeho's bodyguards. There was a total of 200 of them. All of them had their clothes stripped off, leaving only a pair of shorts to cover their private parts. There was a dilapidated carriage in the group. Xiaochen looked at it carefully for a long time before he realized it was the luxurious golden carriage that he had been in before. However, it was now in a terrible state and was beyond recognition. The golden hood of the carriage was already gone. Only a smooth wooden board was left. Under the wooden board was a pair of golden wheels. If it wasn't for these golden wheels, Xiaochen wouldn't have dared to associate it with the golden carriage he had seen before. What made Xiaochen even more speechless was that Kim Taeho was wearing a beast skin and sitting casually on the smooth carriage. Furthermore, the people pulling the carriage were actually his subordinates. Even the precious horses had been snatched away. A group of people ran quickly on the grassland, as though they were avoiding something scary. Kim Taeho said loudly, "Can you be faster? This fat lord is not that heavy. You are all martial grandmasters." The subordinates were at a loss as they complained. "Young master, we've been running for 2 days and 2 nights. It's time for us to take a break. Or, forget about this treasured carriage. If you run with us, you'll be able to run faster." Kim Taeho said angrily, "This fat lord, it was not easy for me to obtain these 2 wheels. If you just throw them away like that, wouldn't all my efforts be in vain?" The manservant following behind the carriage suddenly said, "Young master, there seems to be someone staring at us over there." Fatso said angrily, "Damn it. Watch me destroy him." Never mind. Let's not bother about it. We should leave this damn place first." The manservant continued, "He seems to be walking in our direction." Fatso's expression changed. He turned his head and looked. When he discovered the person, he revealed a smile and said, "Stop the carriage." Fatso was wearing shorts and a spirit beast skin. He looked like a wild man as he quickly ran to Xiao Chun and said, "Master Xiao, it's great to see you. Don't say anything, just give this fat brother some clothes first." Xiao Chun didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at Fatso's pathetic appearance. A famous saying from his previous life appeared in his mind. "You have to pay for what you have done." Xiao Chun had a lot of spare clothes in the universe ring. However, Fatso's body was too stout. Xiao Chun could not put them on, so he could only drape them over his body. Although he was still in a sorry state, it was much better than wearing the animal skin. Kim Taeho tried his best to put on the pants that Xiao Chun handed him. After working hard for a long time, he finally managed to put it on. However, before he could relax, there was an explosion. His pants burst from Fatso's fats, turning them into strips of cloth. Kim Taeho had a helpless expression on his face. He could not be bothered with this. He could only tidy himself up a little and said to Xiao Chun embarrassedly, Can Master Xiao give me some more spirit stones?" Xiao Chun blushed with shame. "You were really robbed?" Fatso shrugged and said, "Is it not obvious enough? Aside from the spatial ring and a coffin lid, I only have 2 golden wheels." The affairs of the world were unpredictable. Life was always so unexpected. Xiao Chun smiled bitterly in his heart. To think that Fatso would end up like this. He could only say that the heavens had eyes. Xiao Chun took out 1,000 inferior grade spirit stones and 10,000 gold taels, and handed them to Kim Taeho. He said, "What exactly happened? With your strength, even if you could not defeat him, you should have been able to run." Although Fatso's strength was average, he had many good things on hand. The dazzling rings and necklaces he wore were not ordinary ornaments. They were all intact secret treasures. It could be said that if both Xiao Chun and Fatso met a peak martial king, the one who could easily retreat would be Fatso. This was because this fellow had too many trump cards. Otherwise, he would not have dared to do things so recklessly. He was very confident in his heart. If he had not met with an iron plate, he would not have ended up in such a sorry state. Xiao Chun was very curious about this iron plate. What exactly happened that caused the fearless Fatso to suffer such a huge loss? Kim Taeho received the spirit stones and gold taels and said, "Thank you. This fat brother will remember this favor. Don't ask about anything else. In short, do not be too ruthless in the Devil's Savannah. I was tricked by someone. I will not come here again." After Fatso spoke, he waved his hand. He draped an open robe over his shoulders and wore tattered pants. Then, he jumped back onto the bear carriage. Like before, he waved his hand and said, "Let's go." A few of his subordinates had conflicted expressions as they pulled the tattered carriage and slowly disappeared from Xiao Chen's vision. In the following 2 days, the uncomfortable feeling in Xiao Chen's heart became even more obvious. However, because of what happened to Fatso, Xiao Chen became more cautious. He kept his spiritual sense within a 2-kilometer radius. This slowed him down. However, there was no harm in being cautious. Xiao Chen did not want Fatso's miserable experience to happen to him. On this particular day, as Xiao Chen walked on the vast savanna, he sent out his spiritual sense. He discovered something unusual. There was not a single sound within a 2-kilometer radius. It was very quiet. When Xiao Chen extended his spiritual sense, he did not even see the spirit beasts that he normally saw. He did not know where they were. Xiao Chen frowned slightly and stopped walking. He said doubtfully, "What's going on? I can't see a single spirit beast. The air seems to have stopped flowing. Something is strange." With a thought, Xiao Chen no longer sent out his spiritual sense as a halo. Instead, he gathered it into a thin line and shot it out. After Xiao Chen's spiritual sense turned into a thin line, he could extend it to a distance of 10 kilometers. Finally, he discovered something else. At the end of Xiao Chen's spiritual sense, there was a black flood heading in the direction of Xiao Chen. When Xiao Chen looked carefully, this black flood was made up of a group of cavalry wearing pitch-black battle armor. A rough count gave at least 1,000 of them. 1,000 black cavalry gathered together, giving off an overwhelming aura. Even from a distance, Xiao Chen's spiritual sense felt a huge pressure. Xiao Chen withdrew his spiritual sense, and his expression changed slightly. He muttered, "Kim Taeho, could he have fallen at the hands of this group of people? I'll change directions first." Just as Xiao Chen was about to move, he thought of something. He sent out his spiritual sense in advance. In the end, he discovered that he was surrounded by these horrifying black cavalry. Surrounded, Xiao Chen could not help but look at the sky. If there was an opening there, he would be able to leave easily. However, when Xiao Chen looked up, he discovered that at some point in time, a flock of fierce wind vultures had appeared in the sky. There was a knight wearing black battle armor, sitting on each fierce wind vulture. Xiao Chen could not help but shake his head and smile bitterly. He said, "There is really no way out." Dong, dong, dong. Deafening galloping sounds came from the ground. 10 groups of black cavalry kicked up a cloud of dust as they galloped over. Each group of black cavalry had 1,000 people. When added together, there were 10,000 of them. Xiao Chen took a rough look and saw a black mass. The weakest of these 10,000 people was a martial grand master. There were at least 1,000 martial saints and above. The auras of over 10,000 people merged together, forming a continuous stretch. Even the air seemed to stop flowing, making it difficult for people to breathe. These were no longer bandits. This was probably the strength of the Great Qin Nation's elite army. The 10 people in the lead rode on black war horses. They wore black masks that covered half their faces. They rode the black war horses and walked in front of Xiao Chen. The person in the middle should be the leader of this group of people. He was a peak martial king. Just one glance was enough to make Xiao Chen feel incomparably terrified. When that person saw Xiao Chen's calm expression, he revealed a faint smile under his mask. He said, "Qingyun peaks Yichun, right? Didn't anyone tell you that you cannot be too ruthless in this devil savannah?" Hand over 500,000 inferior grade spirit stones and 5,000 medial grade spirit stones. You can leave. You are not allowed to appear in the devil savannah in the future, the leader continued. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. He quickly thought of a countermeasure. This request was too much. He could not agree to it. He said in a sullen voice, "What if I don't hand it over?" The leader was not surprised at Xiao Chen's reply. He smiled faintly and said, "You should have seen what happened to Jin Ba Bao. His initial reply was the same as yours." It turned out that this group of people had their eyes on Fatso. The waters of the devil savannah were deeper than Xiao Chen had imagined. No wonder the three noble clans had failed to capture Xiao Chun when they surrounded him. When the leader saw that Xiao Chun was silent, he muttered, "You are different from Fatso. You have not gone to the extreme. It is fine if you do not hand it over. If you can withstand 3 palm strikes from me, I will give you 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones, and 1,000 medial grade spirit stones. However, you are not allowed to step into the Devil Savannah in the future." Xiao Chun was not in a rush to reply. The 2 options that this person gave him were not easy to choose from. The first option would make Xiao Chun bleed. The latter option looked good. Not only did it not require Xiao Chun to fork out spirit stones, it even gave him spirit stones. However, 3 palm strikes from a peak martial king was not easy to receive. Even if he did not die, he would be severely injured. Unfortunately, the situation was in the hands of the other party. Xiao Chun did not have many trump cards to choose from. If he did not guess wrong, the other party should be worried about his identity as a member of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. That was why they were not in a rush to make a move. Otherwise, they would not be speaking so much nonsense with him. Xiao Chun would have ended up like Fatso. Not going to say anything? In that case, take it as you choosing the second option, the black-clothed masked man said indifferently. Right after he spoke, the black-clothed man had already arrived before Xiao Chun. He sent out a palm strike, creating a boundless whistling sound. It tore through the water-like air and surged towards Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun's expression turned grave. He had no other choice. He quickly circulated the dragon and tiger body sculpting art. His bones gave off crackling sounds and the image of a ferocious tiger condensed on his body. When Xiao Chun punched out, the ferocious tiger poured into his arm, carrying a strong force. Xiao Chun clashed with the black-clad man's palm strike. He did not hold back in this punch. It contained a force of 18,000 kilograms. Bang! The fist and palm collided and gave off a loud sound. A shockwave visible to the naked eye surged in all directions, leaving ripples in the air. A huge force poured into his body from his arm. Xiao Chun felt his internal organs churn. The qi and blood in his body surged, and hot blood rushed to his head. Chapter 289. When the black-clothed man felt the force from Xiao Chun's fist, he was mildly astonished. Xiao Chun actually received his palm strike head-on, and did not retreat at all. Retreat! The black-clothed man shouted in his heart, and a hidden force surged out from his palm. A horrifying force was transmitted, and Xiao Chun vomited a mouthful of blood. Xiao Chun's body immediately flew back. Wuxia! Before Xiao Chun could stabilize himself, the black-clothed man's second palm strike arrived, not giving him any time to react. His left hand turned into a dragon and his right hand turned into a tiger. Xiao Chun quickly crossed his arms and the dragon and tiger merged into his body. This was the third move of the Great Dragon Tiger Fist, Crouching Tiger Hidden Dragon. The Crouching Tiger Hidden Dragon that could block 25,000 kilograms of force was like a mountain when the black-clothed man's palm strike landed on it. There was a loud rumbling sound and the ground started to shake. Xiao Chun did not hesitate. He knew that this person would definitely continue to use hidden force to attack him. He immediately withdrew his body and quickly retreated. The dragon and tiger body sculpting art circulated continuously. Using the stance of the Crouching Tiger Hidden Dragon, he continuously gathered energy. The 2 images of a dragon and a tiger circling around his body were very realistic. The dragon roars and tiger roars continuously resounded. The black-clothed man revealed a smile under his mask. Not bad. You received 2 of my palm strikes. There is still 1 more. If you can receive it, you can leave. Xiao Chun remained silent. When he saw the black-clothed man flying at him again, he suddenly shouted. The roar of a dragon and tiger came from his dantian. The roar was like thunder, reverberating in the surroundings. Finally, it gathered together and formed a strong aura that rushed to the 9 heavens. A large portion of the clouds in the sky were scattered by the shockwave. The roar of the dragon and tiger pierced through the sky. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chun's dragon and tiger body sculpting art broke through to the peak at such a moment. He rushed to the 9 heavens in one breath and scattered the clouds. When Xiao Chun punched, He used the accumulated energy of the crouching tiger hidden dragon. This punch seemed to pierce through the air. There was an ear-piercing explosion that resounded continuously. However, the black-clothed man's third palm strike was much more powerful than the previous two. Even if he didn't use 70% of his strength, he still used 50% of his strength. Bang! A deafening roar resounded across the vast grassland. Under this sound wave, the surrounding warhorses all fell into a state of panic. All sorts of voices mixed together, and the scene was filled with mockery. The power behind Xiao Chen's fist completely exceeded the black-clothed man's expectations. It was a full 25,000 gene of strength, causing him to take 3 steps back. Every time they took a step back, a 3-foot-deep footprint would be left on the ground, and the surrounding ground would shake. Many of the shadow cavalry were directly shaken off their horses. Xiao Chen was in an even worse state. The final hidden force from the black-clothed man was incomparably terrifying. In an instant, it surged into Xiao Chen's meridians and violently surged forward, completely disrupting the circulation of essence in his body. Xiao Chen vomited 3 mouthfuls of blood in the air, and flew back more than 100 meters before landing heavily on the ground. Then he vomited another mouthful of blood. The difference between an inferior grade martial king and a peak martial king is simply too great. I can defeat you, Mingshan, who is only an inferior grade martial king. However, I have no chance of victory against a peak martial king. My current combat prowess should be equal to a peak inferior grade martial king. I might even be able to hold my own against a medial grade martial king. If I run into a superior grade martial king, I will have to flee quickly. Xiao Chen thought to himself. These 3 palm strikes gave him a better understanding of the strength of a peak martial king. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and stood up again. He placed a blood-replenishing pill in his mouth and said to the black-clothed man, "Might I ask for your name?" The black-clothed man tossed out boxes of spirit stones and said indifferently, "With your strength, you are qualified to know my name. Chu Jun, here are 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones, and 1,000 medial grade spirit stones. Take them and leave. Don't ever come to the Devil Savannah again." Xiao Chen slowly wiped off the blood at the corner of his lips. He revealed a faint smile on his pale face. "Chu Jun? I will remember these 3 palm strikes. I will definitely return them to you in the future." Rushing thunder roars, 10,000 horses gallop. It was unknown when a large number of dark clouds had gathered above the crowd. Following Xiao Chen's shout, there was a burst of electricity in the dark clouds. A huge electric whirlpool formed. Countless electric knights soared out of the whirlpool. Xiao Chen hid among the electric knights and quickly charged at the surrounding black knights. Bang! 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 The surging electric knights were caught off guard and opened a gap in the encirclement. Xiao Chen did not linger to fight. After he broke through this gap, he immediately made all the electric knights explode to cover his retreat. After that, he activated the Windwalk shoes and executed the Blue Dragon Cloud soaring art to its limits. His speed soared to the speed of sound as he rushed forward. Just as the other black knights and cultivators in the sky were about to give chase, Chu Jun waved his hand and stopped them. A masked black-clothed man at the side said, "Commander Chu, why did you not make a move to stop him?" Chu Jun said indifferently, "Stop him? What is the point of stopping him? Kill him? Are you not afraid of the divine saber camp surrounding him again? Such a genius is like Morong Chong from a few years ago. He is definitely someone that the Heavenly Saber Pavilion would focus on nurturing. If we kill him, they will definitely take revenge." A purple light flickered and Xiao Chen turned into a purple blur. He expended his essence without caring about it. He activated the Windwalk shoes at full power and flew for 4 hours before he stopped. After looking around, Xiao Chen's pale face felt somewhat depressed. When he was fleeing, he did not notice that he was running in the opposite direction from the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Never mind, I should not care about this. I should treat my injuries first. That person's inner energy is too ferocious. If I leave it in my body for a long time, it will definitely leave behind some hidden injuries. Xiao Chen found a desolate place and took out a medial grade spirit stone. Then he started to slowly recover his essence. Bai jumped out of the spirit blood jade obediently and stood guard by Xiao Chen's side. It helped him chase away the ferocious spirit beasts wandering around, allowing Xiao Chen to focus on recovering his essence. The vast essence in the medial-grade spirit stone quickly entered Xiao Chen's body. He had exhausted too much essence in the mad dash earlier. His essence had not recovered to its peak, so he could not properly use it to treat his injuries. Thus, in order to treat his injuries, he had to recover all his essence first. At the start, Xiao Chen needed an entire night to absorb the energy of a medial-grade spirit stone. Now he only needed 4 hours to completely absorb the energy of a medial-grade spirit stone. This time, because of his injuries, his absorption speed was slower than usual. After 8 hours, Xiao Chen finally finished recovering his essence. He started to carefully remove the hidden energy that the black-clothed man had left in his meridians. The importance of meridians to cultivators went without saying. Xiao Chen would rather take more trouble and spend more time than to use brute force. This cleansing process took 6 hours. Finally, the hidden energy that the black-clothed man had left in his body was completely removed. Xiao Chen immediately felt very relaxed. When he looked up, the sky was already dark. Xiao Chen decided to travel through the night. After hesitating for a while, he gave up on the idea of using the silver warship. The silver warship was too eye-catching. It would easily expose his identity. Back in Whitewater City, many people had seen him use it. If they found out, it would be troublesome. The aristocratic families had never let up on their pursuit of him. This time, he had seen his wanted poster in every city along the way. Without resting for too long, Xiao Chen checked the direction and started moving again. Bai followed behind Xiao Chen. His speed was not much slower than Xiao Chen's. After that, Xiao Chen did not run into any obstructions along the way. With the windwalk shoes activated, the journey, which would have taken 5 days, took only 3 days to complete. When Xiao Chen saw the Lingyun mountain range appear in his vision, the uneasiness in his heart became even stronger. Something must have happened to someone he cared about. Otherwise, he would not have such an intense feeling. Heavenly Saber Pavilion, Biyun Peak, Song Kei's bedroom. Urgent footsteps could be heard. The door opened with a bang. Song Qianhe said anxiously, "Father, I have received news that Xiao Chen will arrive at the Heavenly Saber Pavilion in 4 hours." On the bed, Song Kei, who only had one arm remaining, opened his eyes. A dense killing intent flashed in his eyes as he said, "Send someone to inform the assassins of the Flying Snow Manor. After that, don't bother with him. As long as he dies outside the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, it will have nothing to do with us." When Song Kei received news that Xiao Chen had killed Yu Mingshan, he was extremely astonished. He had not expected Xiao Chen to be able to kill an inferior-grade martial king. Furthermore, it was the extremely cautious Yu Mingshan. This made Song Kei feel threatened. This brat's strength was growing too fast. If Xiao Chen were to advance to martial king, his life would be in danger. This was especially so now that he only had one arm remaining. Thus, before Xiao Chen matured, he had to kill him. Otherwise, it would be even more difficult to make a move in the future. On the path to the top of the mountain, Xiao Chen looked at the tall peaks of Lingyun Mountain. Suddenly he stopped. He felt a weak killing intent. He immediately extended out his spiritual sense and found 4 inferior-grade martial kings hidden in the bushes by the roadside. Xiao Chen frowned slightly and placed his right hand on the hilt of the lunar shadow saber. "They are actually people from the Flying Snow Manor," Xiao Chen said indifferently. No wonder they dared to make a move at the foot of Lingyun mountain range. At this moment, Xiao Chen was extremely furious. He felt very anxious to know the truth of the matter. He did not expect to meet with an assassination attempt here. Aside from Song Kei, there was no one else who could know his whereabouts like the back of their hand. Furthermore, they could spend a large sum of money to hire a martial king to kill him. Damn it! I have to find an opportunity to kill this person. Otherwise, there will be no end to this trouble, Xiao Chen thought to himself coldly. When the 4 hidden people saw Xiao Chen suddenly stop, they did not hesitate to draw their swords. Qi. For strands of dense sword qi tore through the bushes in front of them and shot towards Xiao Chen. There was a qualitative difference between an inferior-grade martial king's sword qi and a martial saint's. With the essence infused into Xiao Chen's body, it would be difficult for him to block it. However, Xiao Chen did not even think of dodging. He quickly drew his saber with his right hand. Chapter 290. Glittering Wukuei. A purple saber light flashed. Xiao Chen's saber vibrated 4 times in the air. 4 divine Wukuei tree branches turned into dense saber qi and welcomed the attack without hesitation. Dang, dang, dang. When the saber qi and sword qi clashed, they clanged in the air, giving off melodious explosions. The 4 assassins moved like phantoms, each heading for Xiao Chen from a different direction. The 4 of them were already inferior-grade martial kings. Their speed reached the speed of sound. They merged with the wind silently. Purple thunder, true fire. Shoot. The fierce purple flame in Xiao Chen's right eye started to burn continuously. The flame quickly condensed into a purple light. It stretched in his right eye and turned into a purple arrow. The arrow flew out at lightning speed. It was faster than sound. In an instant, it pierced through the chest of the assassin in front and flew into the distance like a meteor. At this moment, with 4 early-stage inferior-grade martial kings surrounding him, if Xiao Chen still did not use his trump card, he would be too stupid. Bang, bang, bang. The jade pendant on Xiao Chen's chest quickly activated. The remaining 3 inferior-grade martial saints thought they could take advantage of this opportunity to strike Xiao Chen. However, they were all repelled by the barrier. A huge force came from the barrier and bounced back at the 3, knocking them back. The 3 of them had used their full strength in their attacks. Almost all of them were repelled. The essence in their bodies became chaotic and they were caught off guard. I have to end this quickly. The longer this drags on, the greater the disadvantage I will be in. Xiao Chen quickly thought to himself. I only have a few trump cards. If they see through me, it will be useless. Wukuei shakes the heavens. Xiao Chen roared ferociously and leaped into the air. The ancient divine Wukuei tree appeared from nowhere. It carried an earth-shattering aura as it pressed down on a retreating martial saint. Bang, bang, bang. This killing move contained a strong state of thunder. The retreating inferior-grade martial king had no way to block it. The force of the divine Wukuei tree struck him, and he vomited a mouthful of blood. Then he flew back again. After suffering 2 heavy blows in a row, Xiao Chen would not be able to fight for a while. He turned around and faced the 2 assassins behind him. Purple light flickered under his feet, and a strange purple flower bud appeared out of nowhere, wrapping around Xiao Chen's body. Both of their swords struck the flower bud, but there was no reaction at all. Seeing this, they hurriedly retreated. Wukuei blossoms. Xiao Chen shouted from within the flower bud, and the purple flower bud suddenly bloomed. A moment later, the petals danced in the air, forming a dazzling Wukuei flower. Xiao Chen's figure flashed in the air. He leaped over the petals that filled the sky and stabbed out with his saber. As Xiao Chen passed through the petals, countless streams of light fell from the petals. His speed instantly reached its peak, reaching 2 times the speed of sound. Puchi. Xiao Chen, who had reached 2 times the speed of sound, stabbed an assassin as expected. This speed was not something they could react to at all. Wukuei supporting the heavens. Xiao Chen shouted, and the petals that filled the air flowed into the assassin's wound. The assassin's body immediately flew back 200 meters. In the next moment, a towering tree rose from the assassin's chest, pressing him down firmly. When Xiao Chen made his move, the remaining assassin did not hesitate to stab him with his sword. Xiao Chen had already used up all his trump cards. Furthermore, he had just finished his move. There was no way for him to dodge this attack. He could only tilt his body slightly, avoiding a vital point. Blood immediately spurted out of Xiao Chen's chest. The wound was only 2 centimeters away from Xiao Chen's heart. If it had been any closer, he would have died immediately. Intense pain spread out. At the critical moment of life and death, Xiao Chen suddenly calmed down. Enduring the boundless pain, Xiao Chen grasped his sword with his left hand. Blood flowed continuously from his palm as he prevented the other party from stabbing in. At the same time, the lunar shadow saber in his right hand stabbed at the assassin's chest. The other party did not dodge. A cold murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He held his sword with one hand and held it with both hands. Suddenly, Xiaochen felt a strong essence coming from the sword. As long as the essence flowed into his body through the sword, it would immediately crush his heart. This was because the wound was too close to his heart. Unexpectedly, the other party chose to die together with him. The assassins of the Flying Snow Manor were too decisive. Just as Xiaochen was about to despair, a gentle breeze blew. There was a flash of light and the assassin's head flew off. The surging essence on the sword was immediately severed. That person's headless body fell heavily to the ground. When Xiaochen saw the person who helped him kill the two heavily injured martial kings, his eyes were filled with surprise. The person who helped him was actually Morongcheng, who did not get along with him. It was not a coincidence that Morongcheng appeared here. After he found out that the tendon refining flour was taken away by Xiaochen, he had been following him from afar. When Morongcheng saw Xiaochen slowly pull out the sword from his chest, he said indifferently, "Keep your life. I will personally come for it on the 15th. Xiaochen applied some ointment to his wound and bandaged it. Then he watched Morongcheng leave. His eyes were filled with doubt. What exactly is going on? What will happen on the 15th? Could it be that the thing that I have been feeling has something to do with him? At the foot of Lingyun mountain range, Xiaochen verified his identity with the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's guards. Then he quickly rushed towards Qingyun Peak. Xiaochen did not even have time to treat the wound on his chest. He only applied some ointment and bandaged it. Before he got far, he felt an intense pain in his chest. However, the uneasiness in his heart intensified. Xiaochen was sure that something had happened to someone he cared about on Qingyun Peak. Yichen is back. Look, it really is Yichen. As he passed by the other peaks, a disciple recognized Xiaochen's appearance and immediately exclaimed in astonishment. I heard that he killed the black tuna whale and the veteran expert, Yu Mingshan, at the Black Dragon River. Now, everyone in the Shihe province is talking about him. Indeed, he also fought Mu Qingxue to a draw in Shihe province. They were neck and neck. For him to be able to fight the famous Mu Qingxue to a draw, his name has spread throughout the Shihe province. However, such a big matter has happened on Qingyun Peak. Now he has to face Morongcheng in advance. His life will be in danger in the match of life and death. I can only say that it is unfortunate. Morongcheng was already a superior grade martial saint a year ago. With his talent now, it would be easy for him to kill an inferior grade martial king. If Xiaochen fought him, his chances of victory would be slim. The surrounding discussions entered Xiaochen's ears. This caused his anxious expression to turn even more unsightly. Lu Ruyue, please don't let anything happen to her. Xiaochen endured the pain in his chest and rushed to Qingyun Peak. He did not think too much and immediately headed for Lu Ruyue's room. Qingyun Peak was the same as before. There was a cool breeze and clear water. There were very few people. It was very quiet. Xiaochen did not run into anyone along the way. When he arrived at Lu Ruyue's courtyard, Xiaochen resisted the thought of using his spiritual sense to check. He took a deep breath and slowly relaxed the tense expression on his face from the pain. Dong, dong, dong. The sound of footsteps came from outside the courtyard. Xiaochen quickly looked up and saw Lu Suifeng walking out with an anxious expression. Lu Suifeng raised his head and saw Xiaochen in front of the courtyard. He immediately revealed a joyful expression and said, Xiaochen, when did you return? Xiaochen smiled faintly and said, Not long ago, I just arrived. Then he asked probingly, Elder Sister Ruyue, are you all right? When Lu Suifeng heard this, the smile on his face immediately vanished. He became anxious again. He sighed and said, Don't go in first. Let's talk as we walk. My elder sister failed to break through to Martial King. Her meridians were severed and she became a cripple. Along the way, Lu Suifeng calmly said something that Xiaochen did not dare believe. Although Xiaochen had a premonition that something would happen to Lu Ruyue, before he received any concrete news, he would always be optimistic. Her meridians were severed and she became a cripple. How could Lu Ruyue accept such a result? Xiaochen could understand Lu Ruyue's feelings just by thinking about it. Xiaochen quickly asked, "What's going on?" Her cultivation is already infinitely close to Martial King. Why did she forcefully break through? Couldn't she just let nature take its course? Breaking through from Martial Saint to Martial King was much more difficult than breaking through in the past. This was especially so for breaking through before the age of 25. The difficulty one would face would be several times that of a regular cultivator. This was because all the strong cultivators since ancient times had one thing in common. They all broke through to Martial King before the age of 25. On the other hand, if one could break through to Martial King before the age of 25, they would at least become a martial monarch. With Lu Ruyue's talent, she was infinitely close to Martial King before the age of 24. It was certain that she would become a Martial King before the age of 25. If there was nothing special, there was no need to forcefully break through. The difference in danger between forcefully breaking through and succeeding naturally was like the difference between heaven and earth. Being infinitely close to Martial King did not mean that one would succeed if one forcefully broke through. The danger would not decrease at all. This was because before the time was right, the risk would not change. Lu Suifeng shook his head and smiled bitterly. Do you remember when she came out of the subspace and suddenly went into closed-door cultivation? Xiaochen nodded and said, Of course I remember. That was when she started preparing to break through? Lu Suifeng nodded and said, Not long after we left, Morongcheng mentioned the Peak Master Contention battle to the Elders' Assembly. My sis must have received the news in advance. She did not have absolute confidence in defeating Morongcheng, so she decided to take the risk and forcefully break through to Martial King. Keep your life, I will come and take it on the 15th. Xiaochen thought of Morongcheng's words and asked, What is the Peak Master Contention battle? Tell me in detail. Lu Suifeng explained. The Peak Master Contention battle was a privilege given by the Heavenly Saber Pavilion to the top 10 of the Wind Cloud list. They had a chance to challenge the Peak Master once in their lifetime. If they succeeded, they would become the Peak Master of that peak. Before the Peak Master Contention battle, both parties had to sign a life and death contract. For the sake of the Peak Master position, both parties could not hold back. Hence, once the battle started, life or death would be up to fate. This rule had existed since the establishment of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. In all of history, only 10 people had succeeded in challenging the Peak Master position. Chapter 291. This was because the Peak Master was at least a peak medial grade Martial King. Unless they were demonic geniuses, very few disciples could successfully challenge them. Only Lu Ruyue was an exception. Due to her father's special circumstances, she inherited the position of Peak Master early. Lu Suifeng said, This is also why my elder sister cultivates so desperately. In the past few years, my elder sister received a total of 3 challenges and defeated them all. However, she did not expect Morongcheng to challenge her this time. Xiaochen frowned and said, Is Morongcheng very strong? With Lu Ruyue's strength, could she not be a match for him? Lu Suifeng said sullenly, He is very strong. 3 years ago, when he left Qingyan Peak, he only lost to my elder sister by 1 move. 3 years later, my elder sister is no longer confident of winning. Xiaochen said doubtfully, If elder sister Ruyue is injured, doesn't that mean Morongcheng will win? Lu Suifeng glanced at Xiaochen and said, No. According to tradition, when the master is injured, the disciple will replace him. So, the task of protecting Qingyan Peak will be handed to you. When Xiaochen heard this, he was slightly stunned. However, he was not surprised. He finally understood why those disciples had such a big reaction when they saw him. However, honestly speaking, Xiaochen did not have much confidence against Morongcheng. When he executed the clear wind chop at the foot of the mountain, it was clear that he had improved. His comprehension of the state of wind had completely fooled Xiaochen. Xiaochen got up and said, Never mind, let's not think about this. I'll go and check on elder sister Ruyue first. There was no point in thinking too much. It was better to check on Lu Ruyue's injuries first. Lu Suifeng stopped Xiao Chun and said, "Wait a while. She just fell asleep and has not eaten much in the past few days. Let her rest first." When Xiao Chun heard this, he felt an indescribable pain in his heart. He nodded silently. After Lu Suifeng left, Xiao Chun dealt with his injuries and started to meditate to recover to his peak. However, no matter what, he could not calm down. If this continued, he might end up in a state of berserking qi deviation. Xiao Chun felt helpless. He could only get up and stop cultivating, sitting alone in the courtyard. In the huge courtyard, Xiao Chun took out the tendon refining flower from the universe ring. There was a faint smile on his face. It seemed like everything was going according to the will of the heavens. When he was in the Devil Savannah, he had just obtained the tendon refining flower. However, before he could consume it, he received the news of Lu Riyue's meridians being severed. However, the tendon refining flower could not heal the meridians. If the 9 major meridians in the human body were also broken, then even God Dalua would not be able to recover. Lu Suifeng had left in a hurry. He had not thought of this problem earlier. At this moment, Xiao Chun could not help but feel conflicted again. This was probably the reason why he could not calm down completely earlier. Chun, Xiaolong, Shen Sun, were Lu Chun Sui a few words. Xiao Chun. Long King he long s I of Lu he Chun I Lu, Su Chun, to say he. What exactly is the reason? Xiao Chun looked at the distant red clouds in the sky, his face filled with confusion. Never mind, I'm not going to think about it. Xiao Chun shook his head and sighed. If I can't figure it out, I'll put it aside for now. I will understand it one day. He would not get an answer if he kept thinking about it. This was Xiao Chun's usual way of doing things. However, at this moment, he told himself not to think about it. His thoughts were in a mess, he could not calm down no matter what. Xiao Chun's usual determination and calmness were all useless at this moment. Xiao Chun just sat on the stone table as night slowly fell. Finally, Xiao Chun could no longer endure it. He pushed off the ground and leaped over the high wall, heading for Lu Riyue's courtyard. Under the illumination of the bright moonlight, Xiao Chun soon arrived at Lu Riyue's courtyard. He hesitated for a while before Xiao Chun pushed the door open and entered. Yi Chun, when did you come back? The moment Xiao Chun stepped into the courtyard, he saw Lu Riyue wearing a white dress. She had a haggard expression as she sat at the table in the courtyard. When she saw Xiao Chun, she revealed a faint smile on her pale face. The moonlight shone on Lu Riyue's graceful figure. Her white dress and pale face made Lu Riyue's originally flirtatious temperament appear very weak. This was the first time Xiao Chun saw Lu Riyue wearing a dress. In the past, every time he saw Lu Riyue, she would be wearing female cultivator robes. Under her flirtatious appearance, she gave off a strong and decisive feeling. There was nothing that could defeat her. She was always filled with passion. The contrast was so great that Xiao Chun was not used to it. For a moment, he forgot his purpose in coming here, and did not know how to respond. Lu Riyue looked at Xiao Chun outside the door. Suddenly, her expression changed. She got up and walked over to Xiao Chun. Yi Chun, are you injured? Xiao Chun recovered his wits and quickly said, It's just a small injury, it's not a big deal. Lu Riyue's expression sank. She said, Don't lie to me. Although I no longer have my cultivation, I still have some eyesight. Let me take a look. Xiao Chun felt ashamed in his heart. He quickly stepped back and said, I'm really fine. Elder sister Riyue, let me take a look at your injuries first. Lu Riyue placed her hand on Xiao Chun's chest, and felt the location of the wound. Her expression changed as she said, The wound is only 2 centimeters away from your heart. If it was any closer, you would have died. This is just a small injury. Who did this? Xiao Chun smiled faintly. Naturally, he could not tell Lu Riyue the truth. He said, The bandits of the Devil Savannah. However, I have always been very lucky. I will not die so easily. Walking behind Lu Riyue, Xiao Chun placed his right hand on her shoulder. Lu Riyue's body trembled slightly, but she quickly calmed down. Xiao Chun's essence flowed into Lu Riyue's body through his right hand. The essence circulated through Lu Ruyue's 9 major meridians before Xiaochen let go. He heaved a sigh of relief. Lu Ruyue turned around and smiled faintly. I am now a cripple. In the future, I will not be able to guide you in martial techniques. Xiaochen shook his head and took out the tendon refining flower from the universe ring. He said, that might not be the case. Look at this. Tendon refining flower? Lu Ruyue said in astonishment. Where did you get this? It had to be known that injuries to a cultivator's meridians were the most difficult to treat. Normally, when the meridians were damaged, they would need to be nurtured for a long time before they could be treated. As for Lu Ruyue, aside from some peak-grade immortal herbs, normal medicinal pills for treating meridians would not have any effect on her. However, peak-grade immortal herbs could only be found and not sought. Hence, the only thing that could help her was this tendon refining flower. Although the tendon refining flower's rank was not high, it was extremely rare. It took a long time to mature as well. Even in some auctions, it was difficult to obtain. This was because the moment it appeared, it would be snatched up. Hence, Lu Ruyue was very astonished at how Xiaochen obtained it. Xiaochen did not answer this question directly. He smiled gently and said, your 9 major meridians are not really injured. With this tendon refining flower, your meridians should be able to recover in a month. Furthermore, the toughness of your meridians will improve. Lu Ruyue revealed a joyful expression when she received the tendon refining flower. However, she immediately turned sad. She said, I still cannot make it in time for Morong Chang's appointment in a month. In the end, I am still too late. Xiaochen smiled faintly and said, you don't believe in my strength? When Lu Ruyue heard this, she was slightly stunned. She remembered when she first met Xiaochen. At that time, she could easily defeat him. However, in the short span of half a year, Xiaochen's cultivation had risen from martial grandmaster to medial grade martial saint. His combat prowess was comparable to an inferior grade martial king. With such talent, he was no weaker than Morong Chang. Unfortunately, he was still too slow. The time he had to grow was too short. Furthermore, the battle between the two of them was not an ordinary exchange of pointers. It was a battle to the death. However, given Morong Chang's character, Lu Ruyue was very clear that he would not leave a path of retreat for himself. Xiaochen would be in great danger. Just recuperate in peace. No matter what, I will help you protect Qingyan Peak. This is because I am also a member of Qingyan Peak. I will take my leave first, Xiaochen said with a serious expression. Right after Xiaochen spoke, he turned and left. Just as he was about to step out of the courtyard, Lu Ruyue said softly, Yichen, thank you. Xiaochen paused for a while and smiled faintly. Then he increased his speed and left this place. After returning to his courtyard, Xiaochen sat cross-legged on his bed and immediately circulated his essence to treat his injuries. This time, his heart was as calm as still water. There were no ripples at all. His mind was clear as he slowly circulated his essence to treat the sword wound on his chest. Xiaochen's physical body was very strong. After a few rounds of tempering and the assistance of the 7-leaf flower, his recovery ability had reached a considerable level. The wound did not pierce through his chest. As long as Xiaochen had time to calm down, he would be able to recover in less than 24 hours. 2 days later, Xiaochen's chest wound had completely recovered. During this period of time, Lu Suifeng came over once. He had brought a lot of superior quality healing medicine from Jade Maiden Peak. Xiaochen did not know whether to laugh or cry. Xiaochen's injuries were actually not serious. He had nearly injured his heart. However, it was still a close call. Xiaochen's vital areas were not severely injured. He only needed to use his essence to nourish himself for a period of time. There was no need for so much healing medicine. After not going out for 2 days, Xiaochen got up and pushed open the door. The sunlight shone on his face as the fresh air assaulted his face. He immediately felt refreshed and relaxed. The 15th, there is still 1 more week to go. Morong Chang already knows most of my trump cards. However, I do not know much about Morong Chang's trump cards. I have to practice the 3 sure kill moves of the Wuxia saber technique and turn them into new trump cards. Otherwise, I will not have any chance of victory. I can also modify the rushing thunder roars. I can change it from a group attacking martial technique to a single target martial technique. I can also use it as a trump card. Xiaochen muttered to himself as he looked into the distance at the bright and beautiful sky. After thinking about it, Xiaochen went over the walls of the courtyard and headed for the back mountain of Qingyan Peak. There were not many people in the entire Qingyan Peak. Thus, the vast back mountain was very quiet. It was very suitable for Xiaochen's requirements. Arriving at an empty space, Xiaochen practiced the first 3 moves of the Wukuei saber technique. Glittering Wukuei. The saber flashed 9 times in the air. Suddenly, 9 purple branches of the divine Wukuei tree appeared. The branches moved like lightning, moving chaotically in the air. They tore through space and left behind marks. Chapter 292. Xiaochen withdrew his saber and stopped in satisfaction. He was close to great perfection in the 3 foundational moves. He could already send out 9 strands of dense saber qi at the same time. The quality of a martial saint's saber qi was much weaker than a martial king's. However, Xiaochen had glittering Wukuei. The saber qi from the tree branch was no weaker than a martial king's saber qi. This made up for this gap. Furthermore, this move exhausted very little essence. It could be executed indefinitely until the essence was exhausted. It was no different from a saber qi. This way, in terms of the quality of the saber qi, Xiaochen had an advantage over Morongchong. Although it was not a big advantage, it increased his chances of victory. After practicing the 3 foundational moves, Xiaochen started to practice the 3 killing moves. Wukuei shakes the heavens, Wukuei blossoms, and Wukuei supporting the heavens. Wukuei shakes the heavens was a separate move. As for Wukuei blossoms and Wukuei supporting the heavens, they had to be chained together in order to bring out their greatest might. After executing the 3 killing moves, Xiaochen looked at the deep trenches on the ground and the purple electricity lingering in the air. He stopped and rested for a while. Wukuei breaks the heavens. Xiaochen shouted and executed the 7th move according to the Wukuei saber technique's mental cultivation method. Immediately, an ancient divine tree slowly grew from its roots. However, before it finished growing, a saber light appeared on the saber, extending for 100 meters. Xiaochen did not show much surprise on his face. He said softly, "I released it too early. The timing is not in sync with the circulation of essence." Again. Boom. He failed the second time. Like before, the saber qi only extended for 100 meters before it fell. Its might was not even as strong as glittering Wukuei. Second time failure. Third time failure. Fourth time failure. Xiaochen could no longer remember how many times he had failed. However, he did not feel discouraged. Every time he failed, he would summarize the reason for his failure and continue trying. The killing move of the Wukuei saber technique was already very ferocious. It could kill an inferior grade martial king. Xiaochen believed that the killing move would be even more ferocious. A regular peak inferior grade martial king might not be able to withstand it. Thus, it was expected that it would be harder to practice. Fortunately, Xiaochen was someone who could endure loneliness. The repeated failures did not make him feel frustrated. Wuxia, the divine Wukuei tree above Xiaochen's head, had already grown to a near-perfect state. However, the light on the saber still lit up ahead of time, extending a 500-meter-long saber light. Wiping the sweat off his forehead, Xiaochen encouraged himself. "Not bad, just a little bit more and I'll succeed. Continue." After practicing for such a long time, Xiaochen had gained some understanding of the mysteries of Wukuei breaks the heavens. This move focused on the mysterious phenomenon, the speed of the circulation of quintessential energy, and the timing of the release. The 3 had to be completed at the same time to be able to execute this move. The so-called mysterious phenomenon naturally referred to the divine Wukuei tree above him. The latter 2 were easy to understand, but they were the hardest to do. By now, Xiaochen had complete control over his phenomenon, and he could control the speed at which his quintessential qi circulated at will. The only thing he couldn't coordinate was the timing of the release. Unknowingly, the sky slowly darkened. Xiaochen was still practicing this move without any discouragement. Wukuei breaks the heavens. Xiaochen shouted, and the ancient divine Wukuei tree slowly formed. The instant the divine Wukuei tree completely formed, the lunar shadow saber in Xiaochen's hand suddenly lit up with a resplendent saber light in the dark night. The saber light quickly elongated. In a breath of time, it extended by 1,000 meters. At the end of the saber light was a mountain wall. There was a loud rumble and a bottomless cave appeared. Rocks fell down continuously. I finally succeeded. Xiaochen revealed a gratified smile. Hard work pays off. I finally grasped this move. Next, I have to try to infuse the state of thunder into it. Only by infusing the state into the saber technique would I be able to bring out the might of this martial technique. Dark clouds churned endlessly in the sky. Low and deep thunder rumbled continuously. Occasionally, tiny bolts of lightning would tear through the night sky, illuminating the ground. Xiaochen's expression was calm. He placed his right hand on the saber hilt and continuously gathered the state of thunder. The thunder in the sky grew louder and louder. It was like there was a huge army in the middle, galloping and roaring angrily. A boundless aura reverberated in the back mountains. A visible purple energy drifted in the air, giving off a zizi sound. Wukuei breaks the heavens. Xiaochen shouted, and the ancient divine Wukuei tree above his head grew rapidly. When the Wukuei tree was completely grown, Xiaochen's right hand, which was on the saber hilt, immediately swung. Pusiai. A resplendent pillar of light appeared on the snow-white saber blade. The endless thunder in the sky suddenly stopped. The silence lasted for less than half a second. Suddenly, thunder resounded. A horrifying purple bolt of lightning tore through the dark clouds in the sky, tearing apart the dark night sky. It was like a berserk roaring dragon descending from the sky. At this moment, Xiaochen's aura was raised to its peak. He was like a treasured saber drawn from its scabbard, revealing its sharpness and sweeping through the surroundings. Everywhere he looked, it was like a sharp saber tearing through the air. Rumble. Xiaochen's state and saber technique finally merged perfectly. The pillar of light on the saber quickly elongated. In the blink of an eye, the peak of the mountain 1,000 meters in front was struck by the pillar of light. The peak shattered and rocks fell from the sky. When the rocks came in contact with the pillar of light, they were immediately reduced to dust. The dust scattered with the wind and disappeared. Dang! Xiaochen sheathed his saber, and the thunderclouds in the sky immediately vanished. The rumbling of thunder stopped. The night turned quiet once again. Only the sound of rocks falling could be heard. Xiaochen revealed a joyful smile. He muttered, "In 2 days, I finally merged my state of thunder and Wukuei breaks the heavens. This move is sufficient to show disdain for martial saints. In terms of might, it is only a hair's breadth away from an inferior grade heaven-ranked martial technique." Xiaochen sat down cross-legged and took out a medial grade spirit stone. He quickly recovered his essence. After a while, the exhausted essence was completely replenished. However, the essence in the medial grade spirit stone had not been completely exhausted yet. Xiaochen took advantage of the situation and entered a state of cultivation. He infused the remaining energy in the medial grade spirit stone into the qi whirlpool in his dantian. When the spirit stone was completely exhausted, the qi whirlpool expanded slightly. The amount of essence it could contain increased again. Xiaochen was not in a rush to get up. Instead, he continued circulating the purple thunder divine incantation. He infused the energy he just absorbed into his body, turning it into his own cultivation. After the purple thunder divine incantation completed a great cycle, Xiaochen suddenly opened his eyes. A purple light flashed in his pupils. Xiaochen got up and looked at the distant horizon. A faint light appeared. Dawn was approaching, he said. After the sky brightens, there are only 5 days left. The Wukuei breaks the heavens has just merged with the state. That means there are only 4 days left. Of the 4 days, I will use 3 days to practice the 8th move of the Wukuei saber technique. I will use the remaining day to consolidate and modify the rushing thunder roars. That way, I will have 3 trump cards. After taking out some simple food from the universe ring and consuming it, Xiaochen continued to familiarize himself with merging the Wuxia breaks the heavens with the state of thunder. The vast Lingyun mountain range rose and fell in all directions. It was unknown how many meters wide it was. There were many desolate mountain peaks. On an extremely secluded mountain peak, on an incomparably secluded mountain peak, this mountain was very desolate. It was barren and did not have any vegetation. Aside from rocks, there were only rocks. Morongcheng stood quietly at the summit of the mountain with his eyes closed. The mountain was 2,000 meters tall. A strong wind blew, causing Morongcheng's clothes to flutter and his hair to flutter. Xiao! Morongcheng suddenly opened his eyes. The light in the depths of his eyes was withdrawn, and his hair stopped fluttering. When the wind blew past him, it seemed like it passed through his body, merging with the wind. The state of wind has finally reached great perfection. My speed can also reach the speed of sound in advance. Given this, I have a 70% chance of dodging his move. Morongcheng said indifferently. Right after he spoke, his body flashed. He followed the direction of the wind and drifted down. He did not make any sound. In the blink of an eye, he had traveled 500 meters. Morongcheng's body flickered continuously as he headed for the foot of the mountain. The clouds in the sky started to churn. Under the clear sky, they moved continuously. The clouds in the sky seemed to be pulled by a strange force and started to collide with each other. As the clouds collided, thunder roared from the 9 heavens. Pusi. Morongcheng drew his saber ferociously, and a bolt of lightning shot down from the clouds. Before the lightning bolt landed, a strong gust of wind blew. With a schwa sound, the lightning merged with the strong wind. The formless wind instantly turned purple and formed a purple tornado. Lightning flickered in the wind and thunder roared. Morongcheng's body rose from the ground. His figure was ethereal and formless in the air, like a cloud moving with the wind. The purple tornado behind him moved with his ethereal figure, moving up and down. Everywhere the tornado passed, countless tall rocks were crushed into dust by the purple tornado, filling the air with dust. As the wind blew, the dust flew everywhere, looking like yellow sand. Chasing clouds, chasing lightning. Morongcheng, who was moving erratically in the air, shouted, and the purple tornado changed. It turned into a purple flood dragon flickering with flowing light. Then, it moved in the direction of Morongcheng's saber light and charged. The flood dragon was incredibly fast, almost faster than the speed of sound. It was a flood dragon made of lightning, clouds, and strong wind. With a loud bang, he crashed into a mountain peak. The mountain peak immediately collapsed, and was directly crushed into countless amounts of powder, parting clouds, revealing the sky. Morongcheng shouted again and landed on the ground. His saber lit up with a resplendent light. In an instant it stretched infinitely and rushed into the sky. The surging clouds were instantly scattered by the saber light, and the sun shone brightly, becoming even more intense, rebuking the wind and clouds. Morongcheng roared ferociously. The cold saber light trembled uncontrollably. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.